Sue Wilson here, somewhere not far from for a checkpoint. Listen to the roundup of tea and trails just coming up over here, and have to say this is epic. Short run, no ultra, no marathon, that was 2 days ago. Now I'll hand it over to Eddie and Gary. Thanks for 2024 and all the best for 2025. And Happy New Year, every tea and trailer. Bye, take care.
Hello and welcome to episode 103 of the award-winning Tea and Trails podcast. Thanks so much for all the votes, and thanks to the Trail and Ultra Running Awards for putting it all together. I think sometimes running's a niche sport. When you look at sport as a whole, like football and baseball and basketball, but then trail running is a niche within a niche, so it's very easy for us to get overlooked. When you say these kind of big awards out there, you know, you think of what Jasmine Paris did and Jack Scott. So yeah, to have our own Trail and Ultra Running Awards, I think that is awesome. Yeah, thanks everybody. But the decks are down, Eddie. The resolutions.
Sad times. The resolutions have stopped. What is it, the 7th? They're out the window.
And the weather, oof, I don't know what it's like where you are, but the weather has been filthy. But we are going to do our best.
Oh yeah, baby cakes. Let's do
turn
this.
that frown upside down.
If my kids are in a mood and I say that to them, that involves then stomping out of the room and slamming doors, because is there anything more irritating than when you're a bit in a grump or a mood and someone goes, come on, cheer up.
Turn that frown upside down. But thanks, Susan, and Happy New Year to you too, and all the tea and trailers. I never heard that phrase before. I love it. Yeah, you might have started something there, Susan. Thanks for all the intros. Keep them coming. Email them to hello@teaandtrails.com.
A big thank you to all our Patreons. We've got to update this now because we can't have any more talk of mince pie and bag of sprouts. We're new year, new us, Garrett. Oh yeah, come on. Do you see those biceps? For a price of a little protein shake or a very sad vegan salad. That probably is like about £8. You can keep the red shorts. Oh, do we need to talk about the red shorts? Red shorts tight. I think they're probably tight enough after Christmas. And the content flowing. Oi, oi, oi.
We've just talked about how sensitive we are.
I know. I said to Rory only this week, I said, gosh, you've enjoyed your Christmas. But he got really upset because he thought I was fat shaming him. And I meant more as he stuck his hand in the quality street for the 8th time that evening. I was more like, you know, you've enjoyed yourself. You'll let yourself go.
Incredible. Dedication, Rory. I love it.
Him and Bryn have had such dedication to that quality. I don't think we'll get it in a quality street again because there's so many now that nobody likes, and the arguments over the green ones, I can't take it.
You can pay the big bucks, and I'm pretty sure you can customize your quality street or celebrations.
Isn't that not like everything in life now, though? There's like, if you can choose, where is it? Where is life if you don't have to argue with your siblings over the quality street, or mum just gets the, what is it? The caramel one. What? I mean, the jaw work involved in that caramel one. I
love a caramel one.
Oh, admit, look, okay, right, I'll pop them in your package. Many thanks to our sensational partners. To check them out over on Patreon. They support the podcast and provide a discount code for you if you are in need of any running goodies. Join any Patreon tier, pay annually, and you'll receive 10% off your subscription. Also, as many of you did for Christmas gifts, pop over to Summit Crazy if you'd like to buy some Tea and Trails merch. Don't forget, bit of admin, if you want a snood, what did someone say, multifunctional cotton, piece of cotton, neck cotton, or a hat, you need to make sure your address is on Patreon. No address, no goodies. Oh, no.
Oh, let me know, actually. We've got some limited edition black. If you're on YouTube, you can check it out. We've got some black snoods. So yeah, if you'd like a black snood instead of an orange snood.
I kind of like the black one for a little change. The orange, like if you're trying to go like incognito, you don't want the farmer to see you running across his fields. Anyone else like that?
I've got 20, I think. So yeah, be quick.
Oh, okay. I'll make sure my address is in Patreon.
Also, yeah, if you'd like, we mentioned if you join Patreon for a year, you get your snood sent out. If you join Legend tier above for a year, we'll send you a bobble hat too. Thanks to X Miles, Precision Fuel and Hydration, Harrier Trail Run, Phoenix Light UK, Beat to Run and Protein Rebel for sponsoring this week's show. We use their products week after week to help us train, hydrate and recover. I would use my Phoenix Light UK head torch.
I know. No, stop. Don't come at me. It's in the pack. package. Well, I've had to wait until I received something in a package that was suitable to return it in. So yesterday, a padded package arrived. It is in the padded package, and I'm doing the Royal Mail thing. And I thought of you because I had a few things to send, typing in the addresses to get the postman to come to your house to pick up the parcel. That is such an amazing thing. I can't get over that, because queuing in the French post office used to take a year off my life.
Yeah.
But it takes so long, and you have to do that for like 8 million Patreons, and I am so proud of you.
Well, the postie just drops off the stash and he comes back later in the day.
Does
and I spend all afternoon sticking on labels. But yeah, if you're a friend of Eddie's and you listen to this podcast and you're missing a book, missing a DVD, maybe missing some gloves.
So terrible. If you're waiting for a WhatsApp reply, a reply to an email, things to be sent back, it's all in good faith. It's all on my desk to do, but everything is just, Gary, you know as well what's looming, the freaking tax return at the end of January. And have I done it? Have I done it? Will I do it but till the day before? Why is it there is something that says why we put these jobs off that we could just do? I could have sent that head torch back. Really, I could have sent it back straight after another. But okay, yes, but you shamed me in front of millions.
If you need a headphone upgrade, then use the code TEA10 for £10 off over at uk.shoks.com.
Big shout out to X Miles supporting us for 2025. Pop over to X Miles for all your nutrition and kits needs. Lots of brands there, which we like, so you can mix up your nutrition planner. There's also Chorus and Gingy, Sunto, Ultimate Direction, and so much more. And don't forget, if you're a patron, you receive 10% off over at www.xmiles.co.uk. Does that mean you get 10% off a Chorus watch then, if you're a patron?
Pretty sure it does. Last time I checked. I'm all out of my NAC. Have you tried it, actually, the NAC nutrition?
No, I've just finished my big, is it the Whole Earth one that's like a litre, basically?
Yeah.
And it actually disturbs me because I think I've eaten, no one else eats peanut butter. How much, that has literally just gone straight on my thighs.
I'm like a hungry fox when I see like a fox in a bin just goes crazy.
A hungry fox. You are a 9-year-old boy.
Very, very dangerous. Links to all our sponsors, Patreon and the Tea and Trails Ultra can be found in the show notes and over at www.teaandtrails.com.
All my clients I've been speaking to, all my athletes the last couple of weeks, finalising race plans, maybe some tweaks in race plans as, you enter stuff and then things change and blah, blah, blah. And then I go through their calendars going, yeah, just seem to have the Tea and Trails Ultra in there, 28th June. They're like, I'm like, it's kind of like it's not a question. It needs to go in there and you need to come and do it. But it's 3 weeks after you'll be fine. But you say, no, you'll be fine. No questions asked. Pop it in there. If it's not in your calendar, you are only going to have massive FOMO when the time comes.
Can you imagine the FOMO?
Imagine the FOMO as people are going, Gary, as you come on stage in just your red shorts and women are like passing out.
There'd be rose petals on the stage.
That is what, when Shane suggested it, that was it. That was his imagination.
That was the vision.
Gary, where's Eddie?
Gary.
She's not come. Sorry, she just couldn't make it.
When people, sometimes the reviews that we read out, it's like, listen to old friends, catching up with old friends. And I think this is where, if we live close to each other, we would go to the local cafe.
No, we'd go for a run first, then to the cafe.
What's your cafe vibe? What's your kind of...
Do you know what? I am happy as Larry. Little tinkle at the door, Gary. That's all I need. In you go, sit down. My biggest thing about a cafe is that you want nice service. We've got a couple of cafes around us where I feel like I've walked into the person's sitting room and they're a bit like...
Bit salty.
And you're like, yeah, and you just kind of sit there for ages going, oh my God, I'm so hungry. I just really want my coffee. You just want to feel like welcome and happy to take your time. I want a pot of tea. I don't want like a small pot. I want a big pot, which basically has 3 tea bags in, loads of milk, and I want to feel I can sit there. So I'm not fussy, Gary, because I'm not really a coffee drinker. I know lots of people are like a bit of coffee snobs, aren't they?
Yeah.
When they go to the cafe. But actually, especially if I've been running, also I don't want anything with like a cushion on a chair. Have you done that before?
No.
Been for a run and then gone to a posh cafe and then sat on the chair and gone... Sweaty Betty.
I scan it. I'm like, I'm Terminator. You know, like when he goes into a room and he's like, over there, there's an ATM machine. Over there, there's a security guard.
You and Bryn.
But I'm like, cheese scones, millionaire shortcake.
Yes. That's what the kids do. They go in straight to the cake bit, basically. Yep. And if there's not a chocolate cake, we're out.
But I love like wonky bakes. If it's like a wonky cheese scone, I don't like it when they look like they've come off a big conveyor belt. I just imagine visualising somebody's grandma or granddad baking away and then bringing them all down to the coffee.
Poor slave labour, chilblains on their hands. Would you, I thought about this last night, would you have like a cafe trip as all your 3 meals? Like, would you happily go tea and a scone for breakfast, and then maybe like a little soup and bread for lunch, and then a millionaire shortbread for your tea? I'd be happy with a cafe diet for the rest of my life. There's no need for fruit or vegetables, just generally like things you can get at that. What's it called? A glass fronted, like home baked goods, basically, for every meal.
If I was a lottery winner and had all the time in the world and had a lovely cafe near me, nailed on. I'd even buy the paper. I'd walk down the street with my slippers on. Out.
It. What paper would you get?
Oh, the Mirror or the Guardian.
That is too both just to like kind of mix in with, so you're mixing with everybody, you're highbrow. I do like a bit of The Guardian, though I only read the like sort of celebrity features and the health and food.
To say I would actually read a paper is doing me credit that I don't deserve. Yeah, I probably would never. Anyway, it's all blank.
New year, new me, Gary. Spending a little bit more time, new regime, spending a little bit more time on my running plan and trying to be more mindful about the podcast, in that normally I just sit the day before and splurge on the is that wrong, on the script and write everything. So I've tried to like go through the week as things have happened so that I actually don't forget stuff.
It's only took 4 years. Fantastic.
Anyway, we were watching a terrible program to start. Let's start this as we mean to go on. And it was about, is Rob and Romesh do stuff. Have you watched that?
Oh yeah, I like it. Yeah.
The kids love it. So this time they did darts. They tried to do darts and they went and played darts with Luke Littler, which was hilarious. But then the one we watched last night was they became stuntmen for the day. And the stuntmen's philosophy was everything you want is on the other side of fear. And I was like, oh, because they did stuff like they set fire to them, they cracked chairs over there. And that is the stuntman's like philosophy of everything. So initially I was like, oh, I really like that. I really like that saying. And then the more I thought about it, the more I thought, no, because as human beings, we think we want so much. And always when we get it, we want more. We're never satisfied, are we? We want more. We want to do that race. When we do that race, like I feel I really accomplished it. But then when you do the race, you either like the spine. If you do the spine, everybody will go. I can't think of one person that wouldn't go, I'll go back. I want to do it better. Like we always, as runners, we always want to do it differently. So I thought that's really good. Like everything you want, but maybe the everything you want isn't the right thing. But a lot of things are based on like the fear. When my athletes say to me, I can't enter that. And I'm like, but does it scare you? And they're like, yes. And I'm like, you should enter it then, because those are the things. So I kind of took away from it a little bit of like, when we're thinking about, when people are listening to this, I know that are starting their ultra journey and they're thinking, I can't do that because I'm scared of it. Well, not everything you want is going to suddenly arrive when you finish your first 20K, 30K, 50K.
Do you think as humans, though, we strive for that unknown?
Yes. And don't you like often think as well, when you've got a massive challenge and you can't work past that massive challenge, you can't think beyond it, but you kind of think, but beyond it, life is going to be somehow different, somehow better. But in exactly that thought, so for the first time this morning, kids went back to school and I haven't done the school run since before the Winter 200, because I went like a few days before, then I did the Winter 200, and then by the time I got my sad, sorry ass back up here, they'd finished school. And so I was like, back on the same run. Last time I was here, I hadn't done it. Am I any different? Nope. Same person, no change, a little bit slower, a lot slower. Anyway, I thought that was quite interesting. And I love a thought like that. Often when I go running, I have a thought like that and then I just let it process. That's one of the beauties of running, is like just letting something think about that and think, am I doing this because it scares me? Am I going to feel like a different person afterwards? No, not really. But then actually, as I did drop the kids at school, I was like, it's pretty cool. Last time I was here, I hadn't run, 208 miles, and now I have. Yeah. Does anybody care? Nope. Do the kids care? Nope. I'm back on my training. Yes. 40-ish miles last week. That's okay. We're getting there.
Is that every day? Doing a few miles every day?
40 miles every day. Yeah, that's just normal for me, Gary. Just turn up
every
40 miles. No, yeah. So I did do quite a few double runs the kids are still on holiday. So I go out with the dogs in the morning, like a couple of, like 5. So really nice way I like to measure the recovery is like when the 5 miles becomes just 5 miles, this is done. Yeah. When you start running back after mega events, like 3 miles, it's like, wow. It seems so far. Then I get to 5 miles. And once I get to 5 miles and it becomes my like staple dog jog, it doesn't take much out of me. I get back, have a cup of tea, get on with the day. Don't really know that I've done it. I know that that's another big step up in my own personal recovery. So that's sort of where we are now. And then I added this week my evening, as everybody's been struck with the snow. We haven't had a ton of snow just behind us in the hills. But the ice, Gary, oh my God, the ice.
Treacherous.
Especially as it doesn't get light till like 10 o'clock in the morning. And then it gets dark at 2 p.m. And so I haven't even tried to do anything outside. Also, I'm really, really suffering with, I think I said this last week, didn't I, with the pain in my big toes and my fingers from the race. And my big toes aren't getting any better. So I'm actually going to see the osteo tomorrow because especially my left one is completely dead. The nerve in it is like you could hit it and I'd be like, nope, can't feel anything. And obviously the big toe is really important in the running action.
Is it discoloured? Is it like white?
No, because you'd think, it's frostbite.
Yeah.
But I actually think I've got maybe a bit of nerve impingement in my back and that is affecting the toe. I also think I did squish the toe in the trainer for such a long time. So anyway, my back feels also like I feel like I'm locked. I think and the cold doesn't help. So I'm going to go and try. I loved my chiropractor back in France. So I found an osteo, but she's also a sports masseuse. So I'm going to go and see. So she understands the sporting body. So I'm just going to go and see what she says. In case she goes, oh my God, yeah, you're nervous. Like she might just go, you've just run 200 miles. No wonder.
Last time somebody said you're incredible. You didn't need to change anything.
Oh, my gait. Yeah, maybe she's going to say the same. I have a feeling when she says, just can Sue stretch that hamstring? And I go, oh, no, my hamstrings. I can't do my laces up. She's going to be disappointed. So yeah, I added a few evening sessions in. Super easy when I've got the kids in by about 6 o'clock. We have a rule. This is so sad. In the holidays, no TV until it gets dark, basically. So it's about 4:30, 5. Like the day starts to unwind and I'm like, yeah. The reason I do that is not for any parenting screen time or anything like that. It's because then I want to go and do my session and I just don't. I'm like, you can watch some Netflix now. But anyway, they don't. They come and they play danger table tennis around me. So I've added a little afternoon evening session on the treadmill, all uphill. You know, we love our uphill treadmill. I treated myself a little Amazon purchase. FYI to the guy in Brazil that keeps trying to hack my Amazon account in the middle of the night. Can you stop? 16 times he tried last night. 16 times. You're going to get in there and what are you going to buy? What are you going to see? So I had a quick look through my recent orders to see. Someone did hack in. What were they like? Whiteboards. But I bought a couple of whiteboards. One for the gym because then I just find it easier. I get my strength on an app, but I hate having to constantly go on my phone when I'm doing my weights. I like to just have it there written up. And I also think there's something about having it written there. I like to see them written down. So I bought that. And then also by my treadmill, I bought a little smaller whiteboard and I'm writing my treadmill sessions out. Every treadmill session I do, I put it on there. So every time I step on the treadmill, I'm just going to be a little bit better than the last time I stepped on the treadmill. Even if it means I have to take the pace down a little bit or the effort down because I'm tired. I'm still, I'm being kind to myself, but listening to my body, but I'm just keeping note of it. And then also it's a great opportunity for the kids to draw rude pictures on it for me next time I go on the treadmill.
It makes great Instagram too. You do the selfies with the whiteboard. It's like you're Rocky, isn't it? It's that old school.
Okay, well, I could add that to my prolific
few filters on it.
I'm enjoying that and I'm enjoying the treadmills, evening treadmills, because I don't have to go out in the cold. And also I get a sweat on and that feels good right now. I said to Bryn, how do you feel about like a sauna? Like, you can get like garden saunas. And I thought,
he's going to love it.
He said, I don't have time to do things that I want to do in life. So why would I get a garden sauna and do things I don't want to do? Okay, right. I think the answer to that one is negative. So you're saying there's a chance? I thought if he went, oh yeah, then I might be something we could start putting some money aside and think about.
You can get them for indoors too. They don't have to be just garden saunas.
Oh, I couldn't. I can sneak a pair of trainers into the house. I don't think I can sneak a sauna into the house. But it feels so good to be warm and sweating. I'm like,
I don't know if they've gone out of favour with it, but I don't see so many people doing the cold plunges these days. Can you imagine that coming in?
No, I hate being cold, Gary. I'm cold all day, every day. I just don't like it, so I'm not going to do it. A good sort of reasonable back at it running week. I'm not having any like massive breakthroughs, but I'm feeling better every run. I put together a couple of little mini sessions, classic 5-4. I actually did, if you want to make it last half an hour, 5-4, 3-3, 2-1. And that means you can actually make it last half an hour if you just have 5-minute warm up, 5-minute session, 1 minute between the 5 and 4 minutes, and then 2 minutes between all the other ones. You can make it last exactly half an hour. So did that. And I also did a little bit of moderate running for like 15 to 20 minutes. The first 5 minutes felt terrible. My hamstrings, my glutes. And then I thought, go with it, Eddie. Go with it. And then just teaching the mind and the body to like, this is training, but we're not going to train. I'd like to be able to do a moderate training run for like 2 hours. Did loads of training before Winter 200, then I ran 200 miles. And then you literally have to start back, rebuilding the body and really listening to the body. And before, like when you're in that big training zone, you'd like not listening to the body and that like, you're tired every day and you're just like, come on, right, another long run, here we go. You can't do that because your body is still like, you've just got to be so careful with like your nervous system and your muscles and everything. It's a real switch. I hope I'm getting it right. I'm really listening. I'm writing my plan. I'm kind of like, try it, Eddie, but don't be that girl. Take the pace down if you need to. But I'm not letting myself. So if I don't feel like doing the session, which I'm finding another big thing in recovery is it's not motivation because I'm super motivated, but I feel tired. And so I'm like, the actual getting myself to do the session. But once I start, I always feel better. So it's good. Yeah, good. And I did a couple of lovely hikes with the kids, like one of them, 2 hours, 5 miles, Gary. So cold. They don't seem to feel the cold. They don't feel, they pair their t-shirt, pair of gloves, and they're happy. And they did so much, like having such a lovely time. We're walking along the river and they're climbing in and out and climbing trees. And I'm just standing there going, trying not to be the party pooper, going, can we just keep moving? And Bryn was like, we should have gone up in the hills with the snow. And I was like, can you imagine? The kids would be fine because they'd be like running up and down, but they'd want to be like having snowball fights and stuff. And I would just be I'd be the one that had to be rescued by Mountain Rescue as they suddenly realised Mum was hypothermic. I'm like, I'm hypothermic at sea level, but they love it. That's the most important thing. So yeah, another little stepping stone in the training. I'm hoping this week to get a little, maybe a 90-minute, 2 hour, a couple of those in to reintroduce the long run. I don't feel ready for a long run yet, but I've got to get my ass into gear, Gary. So I need to pack up a load of snacks and just do it.
Imagine if you're training for something like the London Marathon where you had to do a proper long run. You could do 2 hours on the trails. It could be half marathon. But if you're out doing like a 16, 17 mile run.
Well, I've got to start, Gary, but the 7th of January, I'm giving myself to the I'll give myself another week. Well, it's not long, is it? The days always just fly by, isn't it? We started watching The Traitors. Have you started it, Gary?
Incredible. My mum used to say, if someone was like really, really self-assured to the point where they were cocky, she'd say they've got tickets on themselves. And there's lots of people in Traitors who've got tickets on themselves. They come in flexing. I'm a psychologist. I'm a magician. I'm one of the best in the world. I can read people. I'm going to nail it. And without exception, none of them know anything. This is me being really mean, but I do quite enjoy someone who's got delusional confidence being exposed.
You watch it and don't you realise you've got to be quiet. That first couple of eviction, whatever it's called, when the round tables, don't say anything.
Yeah, but then they think you're going to be, they're a bit shady. They're not quiet. They don't know anything. It's just complete guesswork.
I would be out. Bryn was like, you'd be out the first time because you would be just like so irritated. So sometimes think there's a bit of love lost in this relationship. They'd be like, is Eddie not here? Well, she had a 10-mile run to do, so she's gone off. She'll be back. And you'd be all sweaty and be like, I haven't talked to anybody all day. Do I have to talk to people? Oh, no. But
what makes me cringe, they do that staged content so that I have some guy in the shower. He might be like a bit of a hunk, so they got him in the shower.
He's doing his press-ups.
Doing his best. What would they get us to do?
Right, okay, so what do you think? The woman that's gone in and pretended to be Welsh, because her mum's Welsh, and she's decided that, the Welsh accent is, Welsh, yeah. And she got herself in such a state. These people's emotional, stability is like, what are you doing on this show? Most
of them are quite intelligent people, and immediately she just made a massive error of judgment. What are you thinking?
What do you think? The producers must have told her to do that. Anyway, what would you do, Gary? You've got to be on Traitors. You found yourself there. You've been selected. They've obviously going to have to offer you a lot of money. Otherwise, you're not going to go on. What character would you become that you go, right, this is totally trustworthy? People.
Well, I'd never get on.
Into me.
I would fail the test.
You're on. I'm afraid. Look, this is breaking news. We just got the email to hello@TEA10 from the BBC. Award-winning podcaster. They didn't want me. I'm dull, And then there's too many people like me, the big lips, the long blonde hair, the long legs. They're all, I'm one of many. What would be your, and I've been thinking about the answer for this for you already, too much time on my hands. What would be your selling point? You definitely play the,
I was a professional footballer.
Oh, Gary, aren't you? You're 5'1". This isn't gonna
midfield general.
Okay, I thought you might play the minor sort of card and play the northern, I'm friends with everyone.
People get a bit tired of the old poverty card, don't they?
Oh, okay.
When you get these politicians and they
are you going to go rich footballer and everyone's going to pretend to be a friend because they're going to?
I'll be non-league. When you get these politicians and then they kind of just deliberately they lean on their working class roots, which they literally can't wait to forget, but they play that card now and again.
So you're going to totally go no against that and pretend you're actually dead posh?
I would fail. Come dine with me, any of those things.
Well, also you are the editing king. You are in charge of our podcast edit, your life edit. It would not sit with you. Somebody else.
The producer would be saying, just put that little towel around your waist there, Gary.
What would be your nighttime scene when they cut to you and they're like, so yeah, we could murder Gary, and they cut to what you're doing? Your press ups in your red shorts, or you're just in bed in your red shorts, just lying there?
I would be looking at myself in the mirror in my red shorts.
With your Garmin on, just flashing through your Garmin stats.
I'll be doing star jumps, getting my steps up.
So that was a week mainly looking after the kids, watching rubbish TV, going out to the treadmill, feeling generally much better recovered, ready to move on. And next week I'll tell you a little bit about what I'm training for. I think I'm going to do it, Gary. I think I'm going to do it. I am going to do it. We'll talk about it next week. What about you? Oh, here we go.
Well, I think, I've talked myself out of doing or entering Lakes Traverse. I'm just worried when I reflect back on 13 Valleys, I nearly said 17 Valleys, that would have made it even harder, and the Lake 100, and even Two to Helvellyn to a certain extent, all three of those wiped me out. My heart wants to do it so much, but my head and more importantly, my respiratory system, it's saying, no, do not do it. It's just too high risk.
You're still coughing now, aren't you?
Yeah, my heart rate variability is still in the red, so I think it went in the green the day before Two to Helvellyn, then it went in the red afterwards, and we are now on the 7th of January, so I am just really fragile. It's as simple as that, and I'm still trying to get the balance of volume and nutrition and sleep and everything, and just trying to find something that's going to work and not just completely knock me for six every time I do a race. But I think if I want to go all in all county tops, I've got to be mature and just stay away. It's 100k in the lakes, and that's just going to smash me up for weeks.
I like that you thought about it. You put it on the table, you heated it up, you looked at it and you thought, it's not for me. I don't need that now. But you're not putting it back in the cupboard. You're just putting it to the side, and it'll be another time.
But definitely 2026. I've already put out a feeler to a friend of mine. He fancies it too. So it could be a full traverse in 20. I can't actually believe him. But running, even though my heart rate variability is in the red, running, yeah, bizarrely, it is feeling a little easier. The miles don't feel such a struggle. But yeah, the HRV, it's just not shifting. And my head kind of feels like fuzzy. I wouldn't say I've got a headache. It just feels a bit fuzzy all the time. So like this week I've done no workouts because I didn't want to push that too much, and I thought it was a result, this HRV and everything feeling poorly. I just thought it was a bit too much Christmas booze, alcohol, all that kind of stuff, lots of bad food. But since New Year's Eve I have been, it's really sad times for Gary.
This is very sad times.
Zero alcohol, which to be honest is not such a big deal for me. I barely drink anyway.
We all remember the Christmas card village deliveries with Auntie Joan.
Well, yeah, that was an extreme. And that's why I really thought I wasn't giving my HRV a chance to recover, because just kept battering every day. I do feel like if I ever go out, maybe have 3 or 4 pints and I check my HRV, that will kind of knock my HRV just for a short period of time. But I've been caffeine free. I do drink tea, but the coffee's on decaf. Sleep has been better. My food quality has been sensational too.
Has it? Wow.
Yeah, really good. And what I like about this, my sister's bought a house just outside of Barnacastle, so we went and visited the other day, and she made a lovely spread, quiche, cakes, all that kind of thing. With my normal diet, I would go to that and I'd enjoy it, but I'd have a lot of anxiety and a lot of maybe some guilt afterwards because I've just overindulged. But when Monday to Saturday, for example, is pretty good, I don't mind the odd binge. So yeah, I can't, since we're 7th now, so it's very early days. We're only 7 days into the new year, but I've got to say everything, like all of that side of things, all these things I really want to do, the little 1%ers to try and have a good Lakeland 100 and a good old County Tops. Yeah, really, really faithful to that. No workouts all week, but I've increased the mileage. I think I did I must have been about 60 miles for the week, with a few of those runs over 10 miles. I think even the longest was 13 miles and about 6,000 feet of vert. Wow. And I don't know what it was like for you, but Sunday in the northeast. Windy, icy rain.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I can't visualize exactly what the people who are doing the spine race are going to go through, because my little 6-mile, 5-mile village loop, that does not recreate
pretty much the same. I'd say it's pretty much the same. Yeah.
But sometimes when I've looked at that kit list, and when I very first heard about the spine and I saw they had the goggles and stuff like that, and I'm thinking, really, I've never ran with goggles, even just on my little village loop.
Did you wear goggles and use the poo shovel?
I didn't. I wish I had some goggles, because that icy rain in your eyes is not fun times. But yeah, kudos to everyone who got out there the weekend and put the miles in all week. To be honest, it's not been great. And I have entered the Swaledale Marathon. Have you done this race?
No.
Well, it's sold out, so you won't be able to do it if you fancy it. So really,
okay.
I'm really fortunate. My mate Ray, he gave me a little heads up, so I've entered that. It's just so you'll know the area, because a lot of it is Northern Traverse. You finish in Reeth. Where do you start? It's just outside of Reeth, and it kind of loops back to Reeth. There's not a lot of money, it's really well priced. It's not a full marathon, and then you finish in probably like the village hall, have a plate of mince and veg, that kind of stuff. And it's June. It's just before the Teen Trails Ultra, so fingers crossed. Lovely weather. TV, well, yeah, we've talked about traitors. But I'm really enjoying. We just finished season 1 of Slow Horses.
Oh, it's good, isn't it?
Have you watched the whole lot?
We haven't. We started season 3 and then life has taken over, so we need to come back to it.
It's not a leading man, obviously that's Gary Oldman. It's one of the other leading men. Got a bit of a bro crush on him.
Oh my God, I've got more than a bro crush on him. He did
the Brinks Matt drama too. He played Kenneth Noy in that. Yeah, I don't know what it is. And my wife said, I've got a pattern. Ryan Gosling said that there's a kind of similarity between the two, or the characters they play at least on TV. So that is it for me. Yeah, week 1 done of 2025. Got to see it. Thumbs up.
Thumbs up to 2025. Going brilliantly so far. We're all still alive. I've washed everybody's sheets, everybody's towels. I'm winning so far at January. Small gains, big wins.
Thanks Precision Fuel and Hydration for supporting Brew with the Coaches. Their website and newsletter are such good sources of knowledge, articles to read, and YouTube content to binge on too. On YouTube, you can learn how to fuel an ultramarathon, what pro runners carry on race day, and how to nail your marathon prep. I will be watching that again before London Marathon, and check out their Fuel Planner too. And why not book a free video chat with one of their awesome sport sports scientist, and it is not just about flogging stuff. Lots of knowledge shared over at www.precisionhydration.com. For a change, I thought I would fuel my long run properly on Sunday. I was taking the 30-gram chews. Yeah, I was quite diligent and took something every 30 minutes, and I had a sachet over 2 bottles of the pH 1500. But yeah, in the cold weather, 1 litre of fluid over like 2.5 hours, I was weighing all the time. It really obviously it makes total sense. When you're cold, you don't sweat as much and stuff like that. But yeah, definitely I need to try and get that level of hydration just to manage the toilet stops. It absolutely drives me crazy. Yeah, but gold star for the nutrition. And I know it's obvious, but it just makes such a difference. And it's coming home that last few miles and it's not like a death march. You're not begging to get home and then smashing loads of food as soon as you get through the door. So yeah, serve me well. This week's question comes from Matt Nichols. He'd like some advice for people thinking about doing races such as the Northern Traverse. Yeah, super distances with more emphasis on self-sufficiency. My question is around what advice you can give runners who want to try a race that has a bigger emphasis on self-sufficiency. I completed the UTS 50K earlier this year and, like many other people, ran out of water due to the heat and the long climbs between checkpoints. Some races, like the Spine and Northern Traverse, have huge gaps between the checkpoints in comparison. How do you approach these races to ensure that you can carry on fueling and hydrating? Does it involve carrying kgs of supplies along with you? Do you have filters on your bottles to collect water on the go from streams? Or are there any other secret sources of information you could share? Any advice would be really appreciated and hopefully help out some other runners as well. Many thanks, Matt Nichols. That is a great question. I tend to research the route, crunch the numbers, and depending on the course, you might be able to use shops, streams, you might be able to have friends en route that can offer support to. And then I'll work backwards, basically, with a bit of a contingency plan that I might be moving slower than planned. Water filters are fine. Some people aren't comfortable running from streams, and say the lakes, for example, lots of good water sources. My Memory of Dragon's back race, lots of water sources too, but then Northern Traverse, on the moors at least, not great water sources. So yeah, that water filter does open up more opportunities to hydrate. Russell, you got any thoughts on this?
Yes. So, Matt, great question. I do happen to be the Winter Paddy Buckley solo unsupported record holder. So I do spend a lot of time self-sufficient, a very self-sufficient young man. But there's a real art form in it that you only start to figure out the more you spend doing it. And there's loads of tricks. There's loads out there, potentially better than me. I would hate to admit, but Finley Wild also goes around the country. He's one of probably the best athletes in the world, and he spends most of his ground attempts and races completely self-supported. And I learned a lot listening to his podcast. He's got a podcast, Mountain Goats. So one of the main things is, I'm really glad that you mentioned the water filter. Streams, like sheep, we have them all over the country. Unfortunately, they overgraze everything and they do die in streams. And I've been water poisoned from a dead sheep before, and it is a fate worse than death. It is the most horrific thing. It's worse than food poisoning. You do just want to die. It's awful. It's incredible how much one dead sheep can affect a water source. The best way to negate that is find the spring, and you can normally find them where I am at Eddie, and also in Lake District. If you know where the springs are, that helps your chances massively of not finding a dead sheep in there. The water filter thing is a massive faff. It takes ages, so I tend to not do that one. But the art form of actually getting the bottle out when you know the stream is coming, having it open, having it ready to go, filling it up while you're almost on your run, closing it, putting it back in. This is stuff that you can really, really learn like a skill and get better and better at. And it's incredible how much time you can save. Like, I was reducing my time of faff like I used to time, the time stood still in my recce's in the Paddy Buckley, and it would go down from like 15 minutes to like 2 minutes because I was getting really, really good at doing everything on the move. You know where everything is in your backpack. You know how to get it out quickly. You know what stream you're aiming for, and you can really, really get that fluid and faster and more efficient. And it feels like quite fun, like you're gaming it almost. The fact that you are even thinking about this is great. It means that you're quite serious, and I think that you're probably going to do really well if you take it really seriously. You get your kit right, the amount of water that you're going to need compared to the conditions, how long the climb is, how long you've got before the next water source. You can start to game all that and figure it all out and really hone in on it and treat it like a craft, like a skill. And you'll be surprised how much time you can save by focusing in on it.
How long did it take, Russell, before the sheep poisoned water kicked in? I'm just thinking, could I finish a race basically?
It was the next day, and it took me about 3 days of wanting to die. And I was actually with 3 friends, and we all wanted to die. It was so ill. And so I'm taking it a lot more seriously. So just avoid that pitfall, because we couldn't see the sheep, but later we realized that's what it was. And I think one of us did go back and find a dead sheep further up the stream later in the week. Yeah, it was all bloated, like massive.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Details are fine.
Get the idea.
Trish, yeah, well, you both of you, actually, Eddie and Trish, you've done like these huge races where you've got massive gaps between nutrition, but both Northern Traverse and Spine, you are allowed to kind of tap into the local infrastructure, aren't you? But yeah, Trish, any thoughts?
I think so. The key thing, 100% with Russell, on only use a filter water in the worst case scenario. I would say, if you can, always get your water from a clean source, because you just don't know at the end of the day. There's so many bad stories out there. So I would only use a filter bottle in the worst case situation. I would always try and use a clean water source. So that would be my top tip. The key things: know the distance. You've got to, the only way you're going to know the distance and know what you're going to need is by practicing that. So I would say know the distance, how much you need to drink and eat per amount of time in certain conditions. So you need to know, for example, how long is it going to take you to do 5 mile? How much water are you going to take in that time? How much food are you going to take in that time? So let's say take the distance out of it completely, do a loop around your house or an area that you know, and measure what food and water you were taking on in that time for an hour. Use that as your kind of baseline, really. The next thing is, you absolutely, if you can, try and go and do a day recce. So if you're doing something like the Spine or Northern Traverse, go and do one of the days or half a day as a day recce. One, you'll absolutely know where you can get water, clean water sources from, where you can get food from if you need, because you'll be going along the route. But secondly, you're going to know what kind of terrain you're going to go on, and that's going to make a difference. So if you're hiking up Triffin on day one in the heat, that's a big difference in terms of sweat rate from hiking up Triffin if it's pouring down with rain. So you've got to know those conditions. So know what you take normally on your kind of normal day to day. Know what you're going to take in those conditions on that route. Those are the 2 big ones that I would say you absolutely have to do. Once you tie that down, these distances, they might seem like huge gaps, but they are more than doable. People do it, and they just do what Gary's done. They work it out, and they do crunch the numbers, and they put the time in on the recce's, and that's what will get you through it.
Just remember as well that when you're doing these mega distances where you've got like maybe 40 miles between with nothing in between, is that your intensity is so much lower. So you will be fueling a lot less. You'll be drinking a lot less. And you have these big life bases. So you will refuel. It's a totally different fueling system if you're thinking Spine, Northern Traverse, any of these mega races, that you refuel massively at the bases. And then that sort of carries you through almost the first half of the next effort, and then you'll top up with bits of fuel as well. But the fueling and the drinking is a lot less than if you're out doing a 50k and you're looking at 90 grams of carbs an hour. You just wouldn't be able to carry all that, and that high, especially after like 1 day, 2 days, your body almost begins to to go into that like caveman survival mode and able to survive on a very low energy input. So it becomes very good. Our bodies are made to survive at the end of the day, and we really tap into all of that. So the biggest thing about this that Trish and Russell have talked about is that it's trial and error, it's practice. It really is practice of what you can carry, where you can carry, what the highest calorie worth of food you can take, what you can stomach, and the same with the drink. And sometimes it is a little bit about suffering as well. You are going to get thirsty, you are going to get hungry. It might not be perfect. It's all about like just experiencing that and knowing that you can come out the other end as well, and then topping up with lashings of tea and mince pies and getting out there again. But I'm all for self-sufficiency. I love this idea of like actually going out and doing big stuff, scary stuff, and fending for yourself, not needing crew, better for the environment, and also a real adventure of like, it's me versus the world. But just within your own comfort, it might just be, a 10-mile loop around your house and seeing what you can do. Don't let the fact that you have got to carry supplies and look after yourself put you off. Just put yourself in little comfortable nuggets, a little bit further, a little bit more tricky navigation each time, and you'll always learn something, and you'll always make a mistake. And that's okay as well. Good luck. Go out there. Enjoy.
Good luck, Matt. I'm like really paranoid now. I would never, and this is not advice, but I never use a filter. So yeah.
No, I've never used a filter either. I just drink anything.
Well, you must have a very, very, very healthy biodiversity. I mean, I'm doing this because you're like glowing, like radioactive glowing.
Well, fingers crossed so far. No major dramas. Yeah, good luck, Matt.
Butt clenched since 1969.
That's because my glutes are so strong, nothing can get out.
I hope that helped, Matt. Yeah, he mentioned Northern Traverse in his question, but I wonder which epic challenge is on his radar. If you have a question for our coaches, we're doing a bit different now. Pop in the show notes. We've got a link to a Google Doc or a Google form.
You think that we might be a little bit behind the times here at Teen Trails Towers, but we are cutting edge technology now.
I didn't know what a Google form was until last night.
He was so excited. The minute we logged on for our chat, he said, can you try? Eddie. There's a link to a Google Doc at the top of the script. Try it. Send me a message. So I thought, of course, you can imagine, everybody, the sort of message I sent him.
Filthy. Stop flirting, Eddie.
You got it in writing now, Gary. You got it in writing.
I'm just collecting it all for our HR tribunal.
Tribunal. Oh, God, it's gone that far now, has it? Oh.
But yeah, if all has gone well, if I've done it right, in the show notes, you'll find a link. And if you've got a question for our coaches and you are Patreon, then click the link, fill out the form, and we'll do our best to answer your questions.
Thank you, Phoenix Light, for sponsoring this week's interview. I love my Phoenix head torch. Gary, he doesn't so much because he hasn't got one. And it's just fallen on the floor when I move my table. But I don't think it works anymore either. But don't forget, Patreons can enjoy 10% off over at www.phoenixlight.co.uk. We use the HM65R/2V 2.0 headlamp. It's absolutely perfect. I saw there was a little discussion on Facebook about like the settings, how long the light lasts, which light is best to use. I would say, Gary, do not rely on what it says because it's tested under optimal conditions, obviously. Yeah. The weather plays such a big part in what sort of light you're going to use, how bright you need it, the terrain that you're using. Because if it's really cold, like say that you'd been out on the spine this week, your head torch battery is going to die.
Oh, yeah, batteries do not like cold weather.
They do not like cold weather. So always have a couple of rechargeable batteries. Make sure, have them down your pants, wherever, orifices, so you can quickly get them. But try out the different lights when you're running so you're super comfortable as well. I don't know if this is like recommended. Well, who is going to recommend it? But I do think practicing practicing with a really dim light is a good idea, because it's super easy to run when you put it on the high lumens. You can see everything, but if you put it on the high lumens, your head torch is probably going to last about 3 hours.
But these people, they don't know how good they've had it, Eddie. When we first started running, 200 lumens was like flagship.
What did we have when we first started running? But practice running with it quite dim as well, so you feel quite comfortable. Feel the snow, as the kids used to say when we were skiing. Just feel the snow. Feel the terrain. People asked about the warm and so the warm is actually really helpful if you've got like that rain, that you know how we love it, that sleety rain or fog coming straight at you. The warm glow is really good, because if you've got the harsher light on, it just reflects back in it and you can't see anything. But the warm glow is really good. And I love a bit of the warm glow if I'm feeling a bit low. I just put the warm glow on. Imagine I'm by the fire with you, snuggled in, watching Traitors.
It is a bit nerdy, but I wonder if that Phoenix HM65R-T version 2 is going to be the most popular head torch for the winter spine race. Lots of people I know who are doing the spine race. That is their head torch of choice.
So they pay. I think I've talked about this before. When you go to Kona at the Ironman World Championships, they pay people with a clipboard, and there's rows of them sitting in there's like camping chairs as you go to transition to check in, and they do all the like wheels, bike, everything, like trainer kit, everything. They're all doing it, and they have all the checklists, because it must be such good use for brands. And then they give all the feedback of like, and they also do like the pros, who won what, wearing what trainers. We could set that up. We could sit outside Middleton in our deck chairs for 2 days and up at Tan Hill in the pub.
They come in the Tan Hill because it'll be all super cozy. We're on fire, beer on tap, asking people
just
what
a little microphone under their nose. How are you feeling?
I'm Gary from Tea and Trials podcast.
As a number of you will be waiting, as this goes live, will be waiting nervously at kit check at Edel, or perhaps you are loading up open tracking onto your computer ready to follow dots, or perhaps you're thinking, what Eddie is banging on about these. Her experience at Winter Downs 200 sounded so incredible. I need a piece of that pie. So we had a little think about what we could give you guys that might help, might inspire, might not inspire you to perhaps step up to an even bigger ultra distance, or perhaps you're already stepping up to that distance and you want a few tips and tricks. We were thinking, who could we ask that has got like good coaching knowledge, maybe has done the spine, good crack, good looking. We need her to sell those YouTube numbers. Fun times. So we thought, let's ask friend of the show, coach of the show, number one, Coach Trish, to come and talk with Gary and I about all things spine and all things about things we've learnt on the course, having both finished the spine, both prepared ourselves for the spine, but also prepared a number of people for the spine as well. So we thought, let's make it simple. I don't know, is this an algorithm that 5 top tips is 5 is a good number?
Between the pair of you, what a CV, what a depth and breadth of knowledge that we can tap into. So yeah, I'm looking forward.
Also, I'm secretly happy that it's 2 women that are talking about this, because obviously the women's field this year is incredible, but the percentage of women that do these sort of races, it is on the up, but it's very low. So there's a very low proportion of us that have finished these races. And so to be able to do this with another woman is I'm so proud of that. And I'm so pleased. And we should add extra kudos. Trish is actually on her ski holiday and is giving up shoop time or croissant time to talk to us. So thank you so much, Trish.
Don't worry. I think the other great thing about women as well in the spine is that if you look at the kind of top 10, there's always women in it. And that says a lot, I think, about, the preparation, the dedication and what women can actually bring and contribute, in terms of the spine and that racing end. But also, if you look through consistently, you look at the statistics about people who actually make it through to the spine, who actually complete it. You've got a much higher chance of completing the spine statistically if you're a woman comparably to a guy. The last time I checked the statistics was it might be last year or the year before, but it was something like a 25% chance if you're a guy, but it goes up to like 50% if you're a woman. So there's a really good odds. And I think that says a lot about training, being prepared, and, just how freaking awesome women are generally.
For your treat, we have come up with, Trish and I have worked together on top 5 ways to prepare top 5 ways to prepare for the spine. And we're going to focus our attention. We had a chat about this before we started recording. We're going to focus our attention mainly on the spine race because it is so topical. But a lot of these can be put into ultra running generally, but into super long ultras to multi-days as well. But we will be talking about the spine throughout the podcast because that's a lot of our personal experience. And also a lot of people will be thinking about it over the next couple of weeks. And you might be listening to this as you're doing the spine and you might go, number 3, that's all I needed to hear. I just got to breathe and believe, and I just going to keep going.
I think Trisha's point is a great place to start and really highlights our question 1, or point 1 actually. Set your expectations for the race. I'm not going to speak for you two, but if I was ever on that start line, for me personally, my only expectation would be to be kissing that wall.
So glad you said wall at the end of that sentence.
But yeah, Eddie, where do you want to start with this one?
I think this is absolute key to the success of when you press enter on any of these big races, that for 99% of the people at the start of this isn't a race. This is an adventure, and you need to term it like that, both as you're talking about it, but also in your mind as well. And you might even tell yourself this at the start, and then you might have to keep telling yourself this in the first 10 miles as people run up Jacob's ladder, and you have to keep saying, this is not a race. This is an adventure. And it's not just an adventure, it's your adventure. So it's nobody else's. And in these super long races, you cannot be dictated by what anybody else is doing. It all has to come from within and from you. You can't follow someone else's pace. You can't follow someone else's sleep strategy. You can't even eat the same things, drink the same things. It all has to come from you and that sort of self-assurance that you bring through on training. But I think it's really important to go in with the fact that this is an adventure. It's not a race. It's not even a 100-mile race where if you make some big errors in judgment, in pacing, if you're sick, if you have a little niggle, you might be able to carry through because perhaps by the time it hits you 15 hours in, you can death march it into the finish. You can't get to 15 miles into the spine race, 15 hours into the spine race and go, I should have gone off a little bit slower. You are then setting yourself up for a potential week of misery. It's a really hard thing to say, but you have to get your head around it. And the way to do that is to tell yourself right from the beginning, a year out, 2 years out before you start the race, that the first 100 miles of the spine is the warm-up. You know, that first 100 miles, that first day, night, you're just getting that time under your belt. That's all it is. You're not breaking a sweat. You're not getting tired. You're looking after yourself. You're stopping. And that is so hard, especially if you're coming from a 100-mile, 50-mile race background, to get your head around the fact that the first day and night, the way you handle that first day and night is going to reflect the rest of your journey. Turning that around, because if you're doing a 100-mile race, you're throwing yourself into that first day and night, and you almost need to turn it backwards and be like, slowly catchy monkey right from the start. A big thing about the spine as well, which is probably different from my experience of both the Northern Traverse and the Winter 200, is because it starts on a Sunday. The first day is really busy on the Pennine Way, and you're also where the most populated bit. So it's really busy. There's lots of people out walking on the trail. There's lots of people out supporting. There's a couple of mountain rescue checkpoints that set up. It's very easy to get carried away in that first day. And the first night, the checkpoints are really busy. People are going in. You might see people going in and out, like not stopping for a meal and going back out. And then the race completely changes after about 30 hours when suddenly you probably will find yourself very alone. It will be very quiet. You won't see much other than the odd farmer and cow in a barn. You'll be delighted because you won't have seen anyone for hours. The race really will change. The race dynamic will really change. And so one of the biggest tips that I got when I was coached by Jason Cavill before, when I did the spine, was treat that first 100 miles as a warm-up. Don't think of what anyone else is doing. Run, hike your own race. And if you can stay in it for that first 100 miles, again, we'd love some statistics, but the majority of people, I think it was that left Middleton finished the race.
Yeah.
Get to Middleton in good shape. And I know that lots of finishers talk about the zone that you need to get yourself into in these big races. And so I think that's another expectation that we can talk about, is that the race is nothing. It is nothing like you're going to see it's portrayed on social media.
They show way too much sun, I think, as well. And like snow and crossfell and stuff. Most of the time, it's just like sheer rain.
Also, you're so excited if you get to see the media team, because you probably you haven't talked to anybody, you haven't seen anybody, they're really friendly, and so when they do interview people for the day's catch up, you're like quite perky, and also you know that thousands of people are going to see it, so you're like, one, I'm going to start running. I remember that through Burness, the media, and me being like, well, they're filming me for like they were 2 miles away, and I was like, oh my god, I have to run all this. But you also like have to put on a bit of an, so what you see, this is not real life, you are going to spend, this is the true reality. You are going to probably spend anything between, 7 days in grey, cloud, not knowing really where you are, not being sure who you are. You've got to be really comfortable with being by yourself, time passing quite slow, miles passing even slower, and you have to be able to cope with the fact there is no mental distraction. It's finding joy in, as Deb's taught me before the spine, in just being content, being the word I hate the most, in that beige zone of being like, I'm here, I will finish this if I just keep on moving. This is nothing spectacular. And woohoo, 3 miles an hour, I am actually crushing it right now. I would say if you're thinking about pressing entering, or you've entered and you're thinking, what the hell? If you set that expectation of what it's going to be like, wow, you're already done a lot of the mental training of what actually it's like to be out there.
Trish, I can only lean on experiencing 100-milers, and I have this pace expectation. I know there's a bit of attrition, but for a race like, say, the spine race, the attrition towards the end and how much you slow down, I just don't know how you could factor that into what you hope would be you finishing the race. Do you ever think about that, or it's just literally it will be what it is?
Yeah, so what I think is a really interesting an interesting piece again, and when you look at men and women as well who complete the spine, I always use when I talk to clients, I always use Anna Troop as an example, because if you look at her previous past performances when she's won the spine and that, she's very consistent the whole way through. Her pacing doesn't really change much, whereas the guys will generally run the first 100 miles quite fast, really fast. Women generally struggle to hold that pace, but then the gap as the distance goes on, the guys generally slow down, the men generally slow down quite a lot, and the women tend to catch them up and then in a lot of cases pass them. In terms of expectations for the spine, you have to expect that you are going to get tired. Like, the reality is the spine has miserable weather most of the time, so you have to be able to be consistent. Your expectations have to be that the weather is going to be terrible, and that you are going to have to persevere and get through each day, each moment, each hour with horrific weather. And you have to be able to switch your brain off to that. You have to be able to switch your brain off. You have to be comfortable in your own head, because you're going to spend lots of time in the dark, alone. You might be scared. Fear is a real thing actually on the spine. When the weather gets really, really bad, the spine absolutely could kill you. There's a lot of bad weather on the spine. It's not, the reality is you take all of that kit for the worst conditions. But, when I think about people who got rescued by Mountain Rescue when I did the spine, in one case it took like 30 minutes for someone to get there. Now, if you fall into a river, nobody's going to be able to help you or get you out. I mean, minutes is that's too long. So your expectations need to be that this is a very hard race. It will probably be 7 days of the most physically demanding thing you've ever done, the most mentally difficult thing you have ever done, and that needs to be your base setting. This is going to be this is going to be the toughest thing I've ever done. And that has to be your base setting going forward. And that then has to direct all of your training, all of your preparation to make sure you get it right, to make sure that you're comfortable in going out in those conditions, that you don't feel scared, that you feel, okay being on your own for long periods of time, and you're not getting caught up in your own head. Because actually for a lot of people, once they start slowing down, they start to lose mental control of the race, and then downward spiral. So there's a lot of things to focus on in the spine. Setting your expectation as to what you are capable of and what you can achieve is really key. The spine is 100% a race where you have to know your why, and that's what's going to get you through it at the end of the day.
I often think about this. I think maybe the first time I heard about your why was probably a Billy Yang video over on YouTube, and then there was lots of people scrambling for these deep, profound whys. And I think is it Mallory, the guy who
Everest.
He literally just said, because it's there.
Yeah.
And for me, when I do think about these big long races, yeah, I want to represent myself well. I want to make my family proud and my family be aware that we can do tough things if we dedicate a lot of time to it. But it is all about, it is there. I'm not sure if I can do it. It's terrifying me and I'm going to try my best.
I think that's spot on. And I think that's a key part of why, my why is a big, is a lot there, but at its root is his real primal need to go out there and test myself and push myself and to do something really hard that makes me kind of really appreciate everything around me, that makes me feel totally alive. And I think that's a huge thing that you get from this race. Your why doesn't have to be big or grand. It just has to be, I remember on my checkpoint list, so most people will do a checkpoint list, and at the top of mine was just simply, I had a load of stuff, but at the very top and at the very bottom was don't be shit. And that was it. Like, no, I've got to keep going because, that tapped right into my kind of primal need to go and crack on and get it done. And I think that's a big thing for everyone.
I think we finish with the wise words of Brad Stuhlberg, whose words should just be printed everywhere. They're printed everywhere around my house. And he says, setting appropriate... He says, I don't have such problems with the cookie jar. Setting appropriate expectations doesn't mean you stop striving for excellence. It means dropping the bar of perfectionism and meeting reality how it is, not how you want it to be. And I think that is just brilliant. How many people get to Malham Cove and go, the reality of this is a little different from what I expected. This is a lot harder. This is taking a lot longer. And I think that's when a lot of people go, I'm out. 99% of the people that go out, I reckon the minute they cut that tracker off them, they go, and then realise they have to sit in a van for 3 days before they get picked up. They go, carried on. So I think like any of these 200-mile races, and I think this is probably a big part of the why as well, is that dropping that perfectionism, dropping the ego, it has to all be about the finish in whatever shape that takes more than anything. And if it's not that, you will come up short and you will be fine. Yeah. If you're not bothered about that, then just go for it. If you're okay to go back, you got the time, you got the resources to go back and keep trying different strategies. But lots of us only have one shot at these races. And so if you've only got one shot, then think about measuring that bar, think about those expectations.
I think as well, just one thing with expectations of the spine is you've got to expect it to hurt. Like the reality is it's going to hurt a lot. And it's a new type of pain that you probably don't get from a 100-miler. Expect it to really hurt.
Standing at a stile at 3 a.m. going, I actually can't lift my leg. Right, I've got to go backwards. I've got to sit. I've got to get one leg lift with my hand, or just trying to climb under the stile because you've forgotten how to climb. But also when you talk about pain, it is a different pain to 100 mile. Like you don't get that like quad ripping of like the last 20 miles of 100 miler when it is like every part of your being has to encourage yourself to keep running. It's a real long-term breakdown, strip you bare kind of pain that you have to learn to live with. We're really not selling this, Trish. But I kind of think that if you come out of this going, which is how you have to be, and you come out going, I want some of that. That sounds great. Then you should be on the start line.
It's a new kind of pain. Excellent. That'll be on the T-shirts.
I'd do it again, though.
Oh, me too.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Heck yeah. See you next year.
Trish, you mentioned kit and, how long you could be waiting for mountain rescue. So that leads us nicely on to be a kit ninja. And don't scrimp. I would also say it is a minimum kit list. Do not look at the front runners. Those guys and girls are going to be running probably a lot quicker than you. Appreciate your time on course, how long you expect to be on course, and maybe if things don't go quite to plan, a little bit longer too. So pack your bag appropriately for your race. Do not look at Jack Scott and think, oh my goodness me, look at the size of his bag, what's in there? All the super duper light kit. If you're not Jack Scott, you're going to be moving a lot slower. So, do not scrimp on kit. Trish, what do you think?
Yeah, so it's an interesting one because kit makes a big difference in the spine, fundamentally in terms of weight. So the more weight you have, the harder it is to move faster. If you look at John Kelly's kit, he's got it down to 3.5 kilos or something like that without...
Whoa.
without water or food. And that's top end. So the reality is, unless you have a lot of money to spend or you're a sponsored athlete, you probably aren't going to be getting that level of low weight, because it costs thousands, at that top level, getting all the best gear. It's a huge amount of money. Top tips: 100% borrow from friends. If you don't have the kit, you don't have to buy it. If you can borrow it from other people, do that. We don't want to be buying a load of crap if we don't need to, if we're going to use it one time. So borrow if you can. Get it secondhand. Those are my top tips for equipment, because it is expensive. The second thing is, you probably are going to need the kit at some point. Now, if it all goes bad, you are going to need that kit and you're going to want it to work. So you absolutely have to know how to use that kit. Don't be an all the gear, no idea person. And that means you have to get out there, you have to use it. You have to use it in those conditions. You need to know where to pack it, where to store it. So 100% pack it right, use it repeatedly, go out in terrible weather sometimes to make sure you know how to use it properly. The key part of gear that people generally don't know how to use is their GPS, and you really do need to understand how to use a GPS in the spine, because it's dark the vast majority of the time. You spend pretty much all of your time in darkness, and even in the day, if the weather's bad, you're not seeing much. You have to have a handheld GPS for the spine, but you also have to have a watch as well. So the reality is, depending on what watch you've got. I mean, I've got the Enduro. The Enduro would last the spine. Probably I'd have to charge it, and it's a good watch. But you have to have a handheld device. You don't want the touchscreen ones. You want something that is going to respond to like a button, because touchscreen is a nightmare in those kind of conditions. So that's another top tip. Eddie, what did you find with yours?
Start with because it can be a bit daunting, can't it? There is so much kit. What even is this kit? Start with the bag. I think the bag is absolutely key, especially if you're not used to carrying weight. You're a woman, we carry the weight differently. Find a bag that's comfortable, because that is the absolute key, because you can practice with all the kit you want, but if the bag isn't comfortable, it rubs on your shoulder a little bit, it is perhaps banging on your back a little bit, you find it tricky like when you're moving your arms. If you find it at all irritating on a 15-mile training run, that is going to be catastrophic after the first day. So start with the bag, name your bag, and let it become your best friend. You can't hate the spine list. Don't be a hater on the kit list, because you got to carry it. You've got to learn to love it. She's still got it. Trisha's got hers with her on holiday. She's taken it skiing.
Did you both use everything? Trish mentioned about get used to all your kit. Did you use everything?
There was a couple of things that I will not mention that I did not use.
I worked on the theory that I wasn't going to stop. And again, it's risk. It's risk versus safety. So I consciously made the decision to go lighter. So I think my final pack was about 5.5, 5.2.
Yeah.
Something like that. So I consciously made the decision to take more risk. Would I want to be out in my sleeping bag? Probably not. But would it keep me alive? Yeah, it would keep me alive for sure. So yeah, I think again, it's that compromise, isn't it? Versus risk as to how low weight do you want to go in order to move faster, or actually how long is it going to take you to reasonably get checkpoints? Because I just slept at the checkpoints. If you're just going to do that, it's such a tough thing to sleep out, and it really does mess with your system, and it's a lot to do. It's cold, and you don't know what's going on anyway. So yeah, use all my kit, but I absolutely knew how to use it and could have if I needed to.
I did actually. I went in with a different approach and said, I will never get my stove out. So I'll never do that. And I will never get my sleeping bag out, however bad I feel. And both of those things I got out multiple times. And as I got them out, I was in my head going, oh, she said she's never going to get this out. And now look at her trying to light her stove. Both of I slept in my sleeping bag. Dufton toilets. Oh, Leon, Dave, the sleep we had in Dufton toilets. One of the highlights of my life, nestling down between those two boys. And we lit our stoves at Hut 1, having been hit by the big snowstorm, and they came and saved me. The weather was so bad. We couldn't see, we couldn't get through the snow, and we had about an hour to go till dawn. And so we were like, let's just stop here. Let's melt some snow and have something hot, and we're going to move so much better. Let's just get through this funk of like 3 o'clock in the morning. And those stoves saved our bacon, definitely. And the little hot meal breakfast we had between Bellingham and Burness as the sun came up, and we shared a chili something or other. It was definitely a snack accident because it definitely had meat in it. But so I was one of those people that went in it going, I'm never going to use all this kit. And then I think, and the goggles, did I send the picture of me standing outside Greg's hut looking like the Terminator? Yeah. And I took so many selfies before the goggles and sending them to people going, look at me, you look ridiculous. I'm never going to wear these. My God. And then there I am. Oh, I am so happy because the weather, like the exposure of that wind and snow in your eyes, you don't care. You don't care what you look like. Now I look back and go,
it's only after the race, yeah.
Not a good look.
But be honest, we learned this with Stu and Joe and Mike when they came in the podcast. If that little question comes into your mind, I'm a bit cold, starts to rain, my mood's dipped, whatever it is. I know if your mood's dipped, maybe it's food related, but just, if you're out there now, take a part in this
cold,
race.
You're sad, just light that
grab
stove
that
up. Get that Freddo. The other thing I think the kit can be very overwhelming at the beginning is to, within your plan, write a loading plan of the kit. So obviously don't start with the full kit in your training runs and hikes, because you'll be like, this is so heavy. Start with like, right, I'm going to weigh. It doesn't even have to be the kit. I'm going to carry 3 kilograms for this, and start walking with the weight, especially if you're a woman and you need to start loading. You're not used to carrying weight and you need to start loading your muscles and your bones and your tendons. Give yourself heaps and heaps of time and walk with the weight first. Get to how that feels. And certainly when you start running with it, don't run up any hills. Even be careful running down hills, because the way that you take the weight is very different through your feet, through your shins, through everything. So don't start with the pack in December. Okay. You want to be starting with the pack almost a year in advance and just trickle in the love for Bernard or Roger or whatever. Make sure as well that when you do name your bag and he becomes a character, it's somebody kind of like really exotic as well. And they can become a whole person. Bernard, he's been on so many adventures with me. He's cranky, but I love him. We have a special relationship.
Last one from me, though, before we move on from this question. Do not question the kit list. There are many people who much more experienced and qualified and over years put this kit list together. So yeah.
And don't think you'll get away with not having the kit, because you are kit checked within an inch of your life. Maybe, you've been at Middleton, Gary. Well, how many checkpoints are there? 5? Plus the odd mountain rescue will come out and go, can you put your spikes on? Can you do this? You will carry that whole kit for the whole race. No questions asked.
They're not going to go because of, oh yeah, you're right. Taking this poo shovel is a silly idea. Say that. Nobody's going to change their mind.
Just put it in the bottom of your pack and pass it on to a friend at the end of the race. Use it, don't clean it, pass it on.
What about who's cleaning? What are you using your poo shovel for? I had this discussion with someone else. You just dig a hole, right? You just dig a hole.
I use it in everyday life. I use it to strain my tea bags. I use it to plant my little plants. I use it to turf the kids out of bed. I just carry it in my little waist belt.
I think more than any other race, the physical and the mental side of your strengths come into play, maybe more than your cardiovascular. What do you think, Eddie?
I think what you want to start with for a race like this is really important to give yourself plenty of time to train, work backwards, and don't be scared to give this as a 2-year, 3-year goal. Learn your craft before you press enter. So don't think, I've got to do this next year. Obviously, if you're looking at it now and thinking next year I want that to be me, you need to be very careful with your preparation as well. And I think the mental training is equally, if not more important than the physical training. And I think the physical training is very different to even a 100-mile race. You can grind 100 miles, you can be cardiovascularly. The fitter you are for a 100-mile race, the better you're going to go. Like your moving ground speed pace on an everyday run is like, it's pretty much going to, if everything else goes right in that race, you can quite easily dictate the sort of speed, how fast you're going to go. You see that in all like the race previews. Lots of things can go wrong, but you sort of can almost guarantee the sort of rough time that you're going to finish, and then you'll cope with problems or whatever. Whereas with the spine race, the cardiovascular fitness is going to get you through the first day, and then your brain, your preparation, and the grind is going to get you through the rest of the day. So I think the training all has to focus, like we talked right at the beginning, that the first 100 miles, you just got to let those tick by. I think you almost have to train for that back half of the race rather than the front half, because I think almost the race to Hawes, to Hebden Bridge to Hawes, people will guffaw. It's almost the easy bit because you're in control of your bodily functions. You're making right decisions. You're eating, you're drinking. There's people around you. You're doing quite a lot of that in daylight. The conditions tend to be a little bit nicer in the southern part of the course. When you get past Hawes, you've got massive, much longer chunks without seeing anybody. You're probably not going to be with anybody running as well. I think your training wants to focus on that second half. It's very hard to put yourself in that position, and I say that to lots of people who I'm working with to train these big races. So much of the learning of these big races is on the job, so you can't replicate that in training. How you're going to feel having been outside for 2 days, you could, but you'll be wiped out then. So how can we do that in a training plan which can still be consistent, sustainable, and increase the fitness, and you're still able to live like a normal person, function, be a parent, go to work, pretend to work, whatever. There's a kind of like a couple of little hacks, hate that word, that you can do, which is right for all running and all training, but you take it to another level on the spine. You want to make your training really hard. You want to make your mind and body really strong. If you don't put strength training, you can get away with it probably in running, especially if you're 20 or 20, you damn you 30 even. If you don't put strength training into your plan, and it is actually not a fundamental part, God, I'm sounding like more and more like the headmistress here. If you don't put this in, fundamental part of your training, you will fall apart in the back end of that course, because you're hauling your ass through bogs, over stiles. You're twisting your ankles more time than you've had cooked dinners. You're slipping on ice. You're pulling yourself up. Oh my God, cauldron snout. You're doing those massive step-ups, Penny Gent. You're making just good decisions. You're holding your poles out in front of you for a week. Okay, if I made you stand up now, Gary, and said, you're going to stand there for a week holding your poles like this, you wouldn't last like 10 minutes. You've got to work on all this, like just being at holding things, grip strength, forearm strength. There's a lot of things to think about, but I would say make strength training a fundamental part. If you can swap out a couple of runs, don't be so worried about your 5K pace time. Go into the gym and get strong. Think squats, think deadlifts, think step ups, think a strong back. And again, I know we've mentioned this a couple of times, but especially if you're a woman and naturally our upper body strengthens a lot less, we got to get those pecs, we've got to get our back strong as well. Another big part of the spine training is walking. I think people, again, they underestimate that. The media are not going to show you this, but 268 of the miles? How many do you think are run, Trish? 68? 200-mile hike? You've got to practice walking, and I get my clients to do a lot. Practice walking, try and walk 4 miles an hour. It is hard. Put a pack on your back is even hard. It's not impossible, but you've got to practice. It's a different muscle group and it's a different mentality. So we're going back to that expectations of you might only be covering 3 miles an hour. Get used to that in training. And my last bit of this is do stuff that sucks in training. When everyone's settling down to watch the EastEnders omnibus and you've just had a roast dinner, put Bernard on your back and take him out for 3 or 4 hours as it's getting dark. Go out at 11 o'clock at night and do a couple of hours, go to bed, get up at 6, get the kids ready, go back out again. Do stuff that you hate and detest. If you hate running after a meal, do it. If you hate getting up early, do it. If you hate training at night, do it. anything you don't like doing, if you can make yourself do it, just getting that mind strong, resilient.
It's imprinted then, isn't it? It's imprinted on your mind when you do
I think as well, when it comes to it and you're on Hadrian's Wall and you're like, what am I doing? You remember those bits. I remember the bits where the kids went to buy the Christmas tree and I was out with Bernard. And I think I did not give that up to stop here. I think it's all about, what's the name? The guy... David Goggins, the calcification of the mind and the soul.
God, full Goggins.
Don't you think, though? I mean, Goggins has got a lot to say, and a lot of it I love. Actually, for spine training, he's actually bang on, isn't he? It's calcification of your mind.
Would you want Goggins beside you, though, for days on end?
Wouldn't say no, Gary. You've seen those abs?
Oh, always going low, Eddie. We could go high, you go low. How about you, Trish? I'm really curious, that walking thing, because I think as a runner, that would be a real problem for me in training. What kind of ratio then during the week would you do for hiking as opposed to running?
I think the key thing with the spine is, specifically with spine training, is miles matter. Easy miles matter. I do think it's important to keep some speed work in there as well, but you have to get that volume in, because at the end of the day, the spine is a massive endurance race. So you have to be able to go in zone 2, and maintain that for a long period of time. So key to spine training is those big days out with the pack. It's double days to make sure that you've got that, that learned memory in your legs, that you can go out and do those double days. You have to balance the training with the spine because it is hard. It is intense, and whilst I do love a bit of Goggins, the reality is nobody can go 100% all the time. So if you smash the spine too much, you will blow up, and you'll blow up in the first 150 miles. So you've got to stay consistent. So the training has to be easy miles matter for sure. A big part of that is walking with the pack. Walking with the pack is a really key and important part. The other thing I'd say is the fitter you are, the easier it is. The easier it is to be able to make decisions, the easier it is to be able to move faster. You're not training to avoid the hurt. You're training so that you can endure it better.
Deal with the hurt. Yeah.
I fractured my patella like in the first 8 miles of the spine when I did it.
That was very silly. What, just with your pole? Were you like, Goggins, this is too easy? Smash!
I actually was run. I remember it specifically because I was running.
Of course you
behind Eddie, and like I remember thinking, you need to look up, Trish, and just chill your beans and look up and look at the view. So I looked up, looked at the view, literally slipped, like fell over, smacked my kneecap on like one of those flagstones, those little bastard flagstones. Anyway, it was really sore. But without a doubt, I wouldn't have finished the spine if I wasn't so fit. I was exceptionally fit when I did the spine. If you are fit, you're able to endure a lot more. For the vast majority of people, it is a walking race. You still need to be fit to maintain that for 7 days. So don't underestimate that.
100%. Don't neglect your strides. Don't forget one session a week, of which you basically, to keep it super simple, one session a week, you get real hot and sweaty. You want to keep it about, probably, let's say you're doing 10 hours of training a week, an hour of that a week still wants to be a real high intensity. And strides are a super way, as well as just keeping, when you're doing a lot of hiking, is just to keep reminding your body that it can move a little bit faster, and the biomechanics of running as well. I would say, and I bet Trisha agrees with me as well, is that actually the long spine recce's and the long hiking days are actually, once you get into them, they are such a joy. I've got so many pictures of me as happy as Larry with the dogs and a flask of tea. And there's a big thing about, actually, if you go out and go, I'm just hiking this, you can put on hiking track. You can become it's very easy to become a happy hiker. You can learn the love of a tea flask and a sandwich on stop and make them a joy as well. Just buy into it and just enjoy that. And you can plan different routes. And actually, when you start walking in your training, you realize how much you miss when you're running, when you move that little bit slower. If you do a walk around your 5-mile normal loop and you walk it, you will see, so you're like, I never even knew there was a house in there. So we're making it sound like it has to be all like a grind and all that, but actually a lot of it is a real joy as well, of being out, learning to be outside and all the sort of elements.
The other key thing I'd say with spine training is learn to do your big long runs without music, because that makes a massive difference to how your ability to look inward and to zone out.
Never. I will. That's the only point ever I think you've ever said, Trish, that if I had to do big long runs with my own thoughts.
The key thing is that you have to be able to exist in the silence. You have to be able to exist in your own head and be comfortable and happy.
Otherwise, it's exhausting, isn't it? If you're battling your brain the whole time, it's really, really tiring. You have to be content with yourself as well, finding that contentment. And it might take you a couple of goes, and it might take you quite a lot of training to find that, as Deb said, that contentment of just being.
Do you chat to yourself in your head?
The dialogue is incredible. I think it could be sold as the non-stop. It's exhausting being in my head, Trish.
Literally just turn off. There's nothing. You're driving for me and you get somewhere and you're like, oh, I'm in Kirkby Upton. How did that happen?
You lie. No, I think I totally agree. You have to be able to, what we used to call, what was it when we were at university and we'd had a few sherbets and you used to get, what was the face called? Facial collapse. Facial collapse. That was it. You used to see it coming out of complete facial collapse. When the face just goes, everything drops and the person's not there anymore. Well, that's what you're looking for. Like, you just have got to be able to zone out and just let the body shuffle and just be. Breathe and believe.
Well, is that just not a personality trait? I'm quite fortunate, similar to Trish. I can just...
You too. There's not a lot going...
Well, I'm just there. I'm there in that moment. You know, I'm appreciating where I'm at, but I'm not like thinking about whatever's going on at home or work.
Well, I have that. I really struggle to turn that off. I really struggle. Yeah. And I think it's something you have to practice. And again, we go back to that bit of like letting the first day and night, it will be noise, and just letting it. It will take you a little while to get into that flow state, but it will happen. It might take you 48 hours, but just let it come, let it be.
You went all Goggins earlier. Don't you go back?
Oh, I know. You see? See, this is why we wouldn't get on. We tried, but it was just too much friction.
We mentioned training quite a few times in that last point, and that does bring us on nicely to point number 4, get specific and be realistic.
It sounds like a really bad rap. Get specific and be realistic.
What's your take on that, Trish?
So the spine is 100% a race where you have to get your training has to be specific for it. Like I said, it's not even your classic 100-miler in that you can kind of just, push through. The reality is it's a very different race when you get to 200 miles. You have to make sure you've got a plan that includes what it is you're going up against. You've got to be specific in that training in the sense that you've got to be going out in the dark. You've got to be comfortable in the dark. You've got to be comfortable with the kit and using it. So again, very specific with your kit and how you use that kit. For the spine, you've got to be fit. You've got to do strength training. You've got to be consistent. Those are the 3 things you cannot get away with. And you have to make sure that that's a considered plan going into it, where you've given yourself enough time. Simple things like being alone in the dark. People really underestimate how that can really strip you bare as an individual. Being alone in the dark, where you're cold and you're wet and you're a bit unsure of what's going on, who's around you, what's around you, and the hallucinations comes. It's very hard to train in any other race for the experiences that you're going to get in the spine. They are quite unique to the spine. So that's where you've really got to dial into getting as much information as you can about it. I always say, in terms of coaching, I think the spine is one of the key races where I think having a coach, someone who knows it, has done it, makes a big difference to your success rate, because there's just so much there. There's so much to unpack with the spine. There's so much to understand. There's so much to do.
And you can't do that, can you? Unless you've actually been there, you've been in the checkpoint, or you've felt those feelings. And even the other 200s that I've done, they're all their own packages, really. A lot of 50-mile and 100-mile learnings are very transferable. But these races that are multiple nights, they're all very different. And I would say the spine is more different on from these.
Yeah, like specifically the sleep strategy on the spine. So you've got to have a strategy for how you're going to run the race, and you've got to be flexible with it. But having a strategy, having an A plan and a B plan is really important. Sleep strategy, for one, is super important. And again, your ability to actually execute that sleep plan as well. Even down to how many batteries are you going to use per hour? I mean, throughout the night, you wouldn't believe how many people run out of batteries on during the spine.
Or
and
their watch dies and they can't recharge it. Do you remember Anna Troop's partner had made all the snacks that they were going to make? They were going to
and how they would perish.
Yeah, he laid them out and they watched to see which ones got moldy first. And then so they knew that to eat those first. And actually, that's totally right, because when I've made my sandwiches for these really long events, I've learned which bread works better, because if you make your sandwiches like the day before the race, by day 3, they're moldy. They just don't taste right. So learning even that sort of like specificity of like, okay, so I don't want to put butter in this because that's going to be pretty foul 3 days, but I can put peanut butter. All these little tiny things about going to like where I'm going to put my head torch to keep it warm if it's absolutely freezing, where am I going to store my batteries. If you can't get on the Pennine Way, I would really question about whether your timing is right to enter this race. That is a luxury, and you might say, look, I still want to do the spine, but I can't spend any time on the Pennine Way. And I'd come and done like 4 days on the Pennine Way before I'd done the spine, and I hadn't done the first 100-mile section
anywhere north of Hawes, but I'd already done the spine challenger. So, and I'm very comfortable with navigating and misery. So
you've been in the army. Anyone here been in the army? Trish has. Well, so that leads me on to exactly what I was going to say. If you can so Claire Bamworth won the spine and she'd never set foot on the Pennine Way, so it can eat all my own words. But you need to, if you can't, then you need to have a massive amount of experience on a similar terrain, a military background, orienteering, being up in the mountains, be really used to that sort of exposure. So if you can't get on the Pennine Way, you need to think of think of the worst trail you can. Go and walk through a river for 50 miles. And, but the great thing about the Pennine Way is it's really varied as well. You've got the Cheviots. So if you've got some hills near you, bang on, you've got the Cheviots. You've got the first bit, which is quite a lot of like running, there is running, there's a little bit of canal, but there's some climbing, there is quite a lot of fire track roads. Like there is so much differentiation on the course that you can probably find something within, a couple of hours of you that can mimic it. But as I said, if you can't get on the course, then you need to make sure that your skill set is really transferable to somebody else, to somewhere else as well.
Just like you said, it's experience at the end of the day. You've got to have the experience. And if you haven't got that experience, you have to do the recce in order to get the experience.
I heard this on the radio this morning that you are something ridiculous. I love that we're just throwing out percentages here, but it's like you're 85% more likely to stick to a new habit, a goal, or achieve something if you surround yourself with like-minded people. So this is like, what has this got to be doing with being specific and being realistic? Well, you are setting yourself a big goal, a big challenge, probably for most of us, the biggest thing that we're ever going to do. And so you need to be surrounded by people that support you and are positive and believe in you, even though they might think that you're crazy. In return, you commit to doing this crazy thing as well. But I think reading, listening, watching, talking to people that have done the race, have had good times on the Pennine Way, bad times, it all adds up. So do your research, and we have got no excuses. So if you live in America, if you're in Australia and you're coming over doing the there is just put it into YouTube, get on your treadmill, and you can learn so much by just watching and listening. I've numerous times just had phone calls with people that just want to talk about it, learn, think about it. Don't be scared to reach out to people because, funnily enough, once we've done stuff like this, we love talking about it.
I've mentioned a couple of times I've got my eye on the Northern Traverse in 2026, but my social group, none of them will be doing, maybe one, let's say none for argument's sake, will be doing a 200-mile race. How then?
Bets are the minute you say you've entered, you either the next year they're all doing it, or Robbo will be like, I want a piece of that pie. He's not going to go.
Well, I just think it's going to be like a real solitary affair, because my Sunday long run will be completely different to somebody who's training for the Lakeland 50. So
just get them along. That's what I did. I said to my running group, I'm doing 4 hours, only hiking. I will bring cake. You say you bring cake, people will come with you. Just fill them in, Gary. Fill them in. But also you can mix up your training. So you don't need to do a 4-hour hike every week. I really think that doing loads of different stuff is so much better for the body. So one weekend you do a 3-hour long run with your mates, or you do a 3-hour hike the day before and then a 3-hour long run, or the other way around. So you don't need to step away from that group. You just be flexible.
Or get them to just do bits with you. So, like if you are just doing a much lower pace, I'd find friends who run slower
I would just be like, this is what I'm doing. Join me. And also, Gary, we work with weird hours. So often the long run is on a Friday anyway. And so you'll be just you in your silence, and you won't be allowed to listen to anything because Tricia said you're not allowed to. So it's just 6 hours.
This is the way.
I keep visualising. I can't remember the name of the pub. I forgot it. The pub on, is it Blakey Ridge?
Yeah. The Lion. Is it the Lion, Gary? When you wore your shorts in the storm and...
Out on those hills by your lonesome.
In your shorts. All by myself. You've got a beautiful voice, you teenage choir boy.
Be flexible. And like Eddie said, it's not about mobility. I think it's really important to bend or bow before you break with any of these big...
I have never heard you say that, and I am loving on it. Bend or bow before you break.
Who wants to go first? Eddie, you go first.
Hey! Okay, well, let's start with the caveat. I'm the most unflexible. But considering I used to be a ballerina and I struggle to do my shoelaces up, it is something I need to work on. I know. So we say be flexible, but you need to plan this race in whatever shape planning looks like to you. Some people, and I see it because I have such a range of athletes, some people are like spreadsheet, pace, I've got the A goal, I've got the B goal, I've got the C goal, these are my instructions, this is what I'm doing. And some people like to have a much looser plan. Whatever works for you, but you need to have a plan. You need to go through the whole race, every single checkpoint, every single little bit, and work out some sort of where am I going to be there in the day? Am I going to be there in the night? You need to have the map out. You need to be looking, imagining yourself there in the day, imagining yourself there in the night, because easily you can lose 10 hours by the weather, by being held at a checkpoint, by needing a bit of extra sleep. You need to really plan not just your travel over this course, but how you're going to cope with this. You need to make lots of notes, lots of lists. I find it really helpful breaking down each bit of the race into minor chunks. So for each checkpoint, I'll have a sort of phone size little card, and I will break down the race in between anything between like 4 miles to about 8 miles. And I'll have a little, if there's not a significant point, I'll make one on the map, a bridge, a crossing, a road crossing, and I will just work from that. And I will see myself, I'll look on the map, I'll look for any significant things, significant turns, I'll make notes. I'll have any points that I might need to remember. If I've made notes on the recce, I might have funny names of places that will just make me smile a little bit. And I'll have one of those for each, and I'll have those in my drop bag, and I'll get rid of one. And within that as well, on the notes on the other side, I'll have some mantras, some things. So when things are getting tough, I'll have a little saying, something someone said to me. I might have something that someone's done that's enraged me if I need a little kick up the ass as well. All of this might go out the window. So your planning, if you do a bit of a time plan, if you do your nutrition plan, it all might go out the window. It probably will. 99% of the time in ultras, it will go out the window. But it's never wasted time sitting at your desk when you think, oh, I don't have time for that. You do have time for that. Drop runs for spending some desk time and thinking and seeing yourself on the course. And I think this is where lots of people go wrong, is that time isn't spent mentally seeing yourself there, mentally putting yourself through there. So when it happens on race day and when it goes wrong on race day, you're a little bit more prepared. Have lists in your drop bag, have lists everywhere. You might lose them, but the fact that you've made the list, there will be somewhere for you to pull out in your brain when you get into a checkpoint. What's the first thing I need to do? Once Gary's taken my shoes off with a little bit of warm water and stroke my feet a bit. I need to charge everything. I need to refill my bottles. I need to take my socks off. Really simple things that you think, of course I'll do that. You won't. You'll sit. Gary, Middleton experience? People just sitting, staring when you were like, are you going to move?
They're just like zombies.
And again, you can't create this in training, and you can't imagine how you're going to feel 150 miles into a race with no sleep. Think of yourself as a toddler, as a 3-year-old or a puppy or a kitten. We're not judging here. What am I going to need to tell that person? And write it down ahead of you. It's absolute key to your race. It is mentally how you talk yourself before the race into getting to Code TEA10, and it's how you get yourself to Code TEA10 in the race, is by being flexible, having a plan, and then absolutely not sticking to it and just problem solving your way along the pathway. And that doesn't mean failure. I think a lot of people think when the plan goes out the window, it's all gone. It's all right. I'm going to be 2 days longer than I thought I was going to be. You are. Yeah. Okay, what are you going to do about it? This is the problem. Do you remember Tom Evans? All it is problem solving. Here's the problem. Right. What am I going to do? Also, do work a little bit on your flexibility, your muscle flexibility is getting over how many styles are there? Like 1,200 styles or something? If you're like me and you have really short hamstrings, work on it a little bit, because otherwise those styles get really tiring. Trish, you are the queen of making a plan and then it going wrong after 8 miles. How the hell did you get yourself to the finish when it all went wrong so early on?
I think for me, I'm a big believer in, so I really like By Endurance We Conquer by Shackleton. And I think that's a really important thing to remember when you're doing anything and any kind of event. If you look at the Shackleton expedition and endurance, everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. What marks who we are as a people is how we respond to those situations and the choices we make, whether to persevere, whether to endure. Things are going to go wrong, but at the end of the day, if you can just keep putting that foot forward, focus on the next step, focus on the here and the now, actually things, if you keep taking those steps, the road gets shorter. So
if you keep taking the steps, the road gets shorter.
That's what you've got to focus on. And the key things I remember when I have any problem is improvise, adapt, overcome. Can I improvise? Can I adapt? Can I overcome it? And you always need to believe you can overcome it. As long as you believe you can overcome it, you'll get, 9 times out of 10, you're going to get there. But that has to be your fundamental belief that you will overcome. But by endurance, you will conquer. So yeah, do that. Don't be shit.
Well, I think we finished the top 5 on the total. And this is Trish's quote. And she does get angry about this, people, that this was her, she brought this to the podcast many, many years ago, and it has become the podcast mantra. And many people have cited it as how they finished races, what they thought about. But I honestly do believe that these 2 words put together, well, it's 3 words, but the 2 words put together sums up exactly how you have to handle the spine, is breathe and believe. That's all. You just have to believe you can do it. Keep breathing, 1 foot in front of the other, and the road will get shorter. It's a really long road.
I'm laughing now because I guarantee you in a week's time,
Eddie, I used your mantra, breathe and believe. Thanks.
What about recovery, though? I don't want to end on a downer, but
let's not.
The reality
even go
is,
there.
I've done the Dragon's Back race, so I've got a flavour.
Still recovering from that, aren't you? Still go on, mate.
Exactly. This is my point. Yeah, literally, you are going to be trashed. You're going to be ruined. There is a chance you might not race again all year, and it could alter you as a runner. You might not want to do challenges for years, and like Eddie alluded to, my heart rate variability is tanked, but also mentally.
Yeah.
Since Dragon's Back race, I've been scared to do, say, cross country for Sedgefield Harriers. I've not been on the cross country scene since Dragon's Back race. So there is a price to pay for these races. Don't think you're going to come out of them.
Do you remember when we talked to Jen Scotney and she gave me a right talking to? She's like, these are not good for you and you pay the price. And I'm afraid you do. You pay that price to...
Now
Trish is on a ski holiday and she can't ski because yes, you do. And yes, the recovery stinks. And yes, it takes a little bit of your soul to finish this race. But, and I'm sure Trish will believe, I'm kind of like, I got this body, it can do this. Yeah. I actually am more than happy when I die. I want to lie there and think, take me. I have nothing left to give. I am a shell. I have used my body. And I feel like all of us listening to this, people that might be like spine inspired or might be on the spine or might be ready to enter the spine when it goes live in January. Yes, it will take a part of your physical and mental health. Yes, it will. But what it gives you in return of that, like the experience, that feeling of overcoming, of believing, that self-belief that I can't do this, and something inside you says, you can do this, you can do this. And you finishing, what that gives to you for the rest of your life, I think. And Gary, you'll finish at the Dragon's Back. You would never say, well, I prefer not to have finished because... Oh,
goodness me.
No.
That's never entered my head.
No.
Yes.
So yes, there is a price to pay, but there's a price to pay for everything. I will pay that price for what I get back out of it, and for that experience that you just can't create, like those deeply, and it is all from the deeply terrible times. It's not from the real good times. Though it is, I lie. The friends I've made, the moments I've had on course, the sunrises, the sunsets, things you'll never see, that time away, that peace. You know, we talk about Trish, you laugh at me saying I can't, the music and the podcast, but obviously you do spend hours, and that is such a luxury in this day and age to step away from it.
Yeah, amazing.
Have time to find yourself. So yeah, the recovery is awful, and that is what we don't see on social media. People do talk about it. I mean, I'm as guilty as I don't really go on, but then I'm like, who wants to see the state of my feet and all the skin peeling? But you're welcome if you private message me. You know, lots of people do drop into my DMs asking for pictures. You want to see my toenails? Happy to share.
I'm constantly sending foot pictures.
I know, Trish, it's disgusting, but I love it.
I quote as well when we talk about, you know, like how the mindset. It's from JFK when he talks about daring greatly, and he talks about, you know, you don't want to be one of those cold and timid souls that know neither victory nor defeat. And you know, it might not work out, but you don't want to be one of those people sat on the sidelines saying, "I wish I'd done that."
I've got that in my loo, Trish.
Cold timid souls.
Cold timid souls.
I wish I'd done that.
I had an arrow.
Massive good luck to everyone doing Tone the Line on the spine. Hope it's wet, hope it's windy, hope it's miserable. Hope you relish every single second of the mud, the bog, the flagstones, the snow, the hail, the wind, Penny Gant, the Cheviots. Love it all. Well done. You're going to have a great time. You're definitely not one of those cold, timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. And a huge, massive thanks to all the incredible volunteers. And I hope you guys have a great week. It's going to be a good one.
Good luck. Keep going. We love you all.
Good luck. Stoked to announce Harrier Trail Running as our Strava Club and Tales from the Trail sponsor. Harrier believes trail running should be inclusive and accessible for all. Their mission is to encourage and support people for all abilities to enjoy the physical, mental and emotional benefits of being on the trails. They have some great kit and loads of knowledge over at www.harrierrunfree.co.uk. They have a great YouTube channel with loads of really useful content, and they will be at the National Running Show too, so pop along and say hello if you are going. First up on the Strava Club is Keith Wigley. Keith has been racing fourth at the recent 9 standards, smoking fast. Hopefully he had better weather than when you were there, Eddie.
Do you think he found my number? It's somewhere up there. I remember being so worried when the wind ripped my number off my backpack and thinking, my God,
you're disqualified
because I haven't got my number. And then I think literally nobody finished with their number. Somewhere around the 9 standards are 100 and all the diverse numbers.
Yeah, I wonder what the weather was like. But he runs for Swaledale too, so I might see Keith at the Swaledale Marathon in June. Fingers crossed. 65.9 miles for the week. Longest run of 24.7 and 12,559 feet of vert. Next up, Paul Woods. Yeah, solid week. Long run, strength, tempo. I'm not too sure. A lot of his runs on Strava had 5 kg pack in the title. So is he training for a race? That's, to be fair, I wouldn't be personally so mindful of the weight of my pack, say, for a race like the Legan 100. I'd just run with what my kit was, but maybe for something like the Spine, where he is going to be carrying something a lot heavier, I'm not too sure. But really interested. Yoga 2, back-to-back long runs, 66.4 miles for the week, 20.1 miles. Longest run, 4,259 feet of vert. Last, but definitely not least, Zoe Murphy private account. So I can't see what...
Our Zoe Murphy?
This is our Zoe Murphy, yeah.
She is... What the hell?
29,416 feet. I'm not too sure if your account's private. Does it wrap everything you do up in one? I'm not 100% sure about that, but either way, mind-boggling numbers. I don't think I've ever done those kind of numbers unless it was an event. 89.5 miles for the week. Longest run of 35.2 miles, and 29,416 feet of vert.
Can we just clarify something with the Strava Club? Is that Gary doesn't... This is random. This is
completely
a
random. Yeah.
Completely random. So it's not a case of Gary goes through and goes, oh, you're amazing. No. Gary does and Gary, if it was me doing it, I wouldn't do it properly. Let's face it. Eddie would just be like, yeah, quick. But Gary spins the wheel, and it is completely a random choice of people. That's why sometimes we have all men. That's why sometimes we have all women. So we're not picking people out because of their numbers, because they're doing massive numbers. It just happens this week that, whoof, there's some big uns in there. Sometimes, Gary, you get big uns, and sometimes you get small ones.
I think this is our opportunity to shine a light. This is the whole Tales from the Trails. It's our opportunity to shine a light on our community. And yeah, I can't curate that. Whatever the whale comes up with, that is who our Strava Club is about. But someone else who's been awesome, and this is me basically picking this out, Carol Morgan. We briefly touched on it last week, and I think we did her a disservice, actually.
I honestly thought she'd stopped. I thought she'd stopped because I couldn't believe that she was still going, because I felt like she'd been out there for 6 years.
Well, when you say Boxing Day, it starts on Boxing Day. But yeah, a new Wainwright Round winter record. And just for context, Carol started 10 p.m. on Boxing Day and finished 193 hours, 51 minutes and 43 seconds later. And Carol got all the weather. If anybody says, oh, well, you had a lovely winter. No. Carol, God, how am I going to get on stage, Eddie, and actually talk in front of people? I can't even get words out.
We're not actually going to let you talk anyway live. Okay. Don't worry. You're just standing. You're just posing.
The glamour, yeah. Heavy flex, Carol, and a big shout out to your team. Some hardy souls going out in all those conditions. You could have been back support, mental support, morale support, road support, team maker, whatever part you played, you will have helped Carol keep moving forward. And we do, I think, well, me, definitely, I'm not going to speak for everybody, but sometimes I do normalise these challenges, but every now and again, someone does something and there is like a universal wow from the community. And this, for me, this was one of those moments. If you know someone who is flexed, or maybe you've been flexing, please let us know. This is your opportunity to big up a mate or even yourself. Email hello@teaandtrails.com and pop heavy flex as the subject. Tales from the Trails.
This is from Sophie Howard. So I wanted to start by saying this isn't a tale from the trail, but a poem called The Climb that resonates at the moment. I feel others might resonate with it too. The Climb by Becky Hemsley, 2021. They say that when you're broken, this is how the light gets in. But what if all the cracks are letting out the light within? They say it makes you stronger, but at first it makes you weak. The way you face the mountain base before you reach the peak. They say to break is brave, and yet your mind is full of dread. You're never overwhelmed by courage, but by helplessness instead. But admitting you are breaking is far braver than you know. And remember, from the bottom, there is just one way to go. See, I think they mean it isn't just that breaking makes you strong, but the way you use the embers or your will to carry on. It's a triumph over trauma, and it's healing after hurt. It's rising from the ashes with a newfound sense of worth. So find yourself a candle and allow its tiny spark to ignite you back to life and put the fire back in your heart. And grant yourself compassion for the times that you feel weak. Just rest until you're strong enough to get back on your feet. Yes, I know that when you're broken, you have only threads of hope, but tie them to the mountain like your personal safety rope. Then gather at the bottom with the summit high above. Take a breath and take a step. The only way is up. Thanks for sending this in, Sophie. I am sure lots of listeners will connect with these words. I think one listener especially, and I expect she'll be listening to this during the spine, is have you read Lucy Gossard's little piece on why she's doing the spine again?
I saw the link. I did a screen grab.
Yeah, it's worth reading it. We interviewed Lucy just after the spine last year, and she's revisiting the spine for personal reasons. And I'll let you, if you click on her bio in Instagram, the story on why she's doing it is there. And I think that poem will resonate with her and lots of other people. Oh gosh, me too at the moment. I'm at the bottom of the mountain holding the rope and just beginning that step back up. But what an amazing poem. Thank you. We send you love, Sophie. And thank you for sharing that poem with us. We love your Tales from the Trails. I love it when the poems, because also I can really... Did you feel I really went to my Radio 4
got
voice?
Some gravitas.
I just love that. My little girl is Mary Poppins in the school show, and she's having to learn her lines, and I'm really... she keeps her practicing. She's like, Mum, you don't have to do all the voices and all the accents. I'm like, but I love it.
Yes, I do.
Yes, I do. I really am going for my Dick Van Dyke chimney sweep, boys. Anyway, we love your Tales and Trails. Anything goes, little snippets, little anything, just like that. A poem, anything. We love it. This section is all about you. Please email them to hello@teaandtrails.com and pop the tales from the trails as the subject.
Hot reviews. Well, this got shared in our Facebook group, and it did make me laugh. And it made me laugh, and it made me question a few things in equal measures. Have you heard of is it confirmation bias, where I don't think you're open to other people's opinions no matter what they say? You've made your mind up, basically. And I sometimes get comments, I read comments about, oh, we only speak to elites, we only do this, we only do that. And then I scroll through our list of guests and I think, no, that is actually not true. I look back, we have psychologists, we do have people who do phenomenal challenges and inspiring challenges, of dietitians, thought leaders. I think we have a healthy mix. But yeah, I'm not going to read his name out. That's not fair of me to do that. But yeah, it was over on our Facebook group and it made me laugh. Yeah, he tried TNT and thought it was a bit elite. Speeds, distances and Strava clubs. And like Eddie said, we roll the dice for Strava. This is not me curating who's done what. But yeah, the bit that really made me laugh. And like two people flirting through it. Since 4 years of flirting, Eddie. The tension.
This is your flirting game, your poor wife.
Well, we've had some proper reviews. But also,
it's fine. Like I feel I've really grown as a podcaster over the last few months as well. That I'm actually, before that would have really upset me, and I'd have been like, really like. One person doesn't like the podcast. We should stop. We should stop, Gary. We should stop. Oh my God, what's going on? And now I'm like, that's okay, because I don't like some people. I don't like some podcasts.
Exactly.
This is all good. Just walk away. But also, whatever you put on social media, the people that you talk about are going to read it.
Yeah. I think the only thing that triggers me, if somebody doesn't like the podcast, that is completely up to them. But when they don't like it and they say something which I think, well, that's not actually true, that triggers me.
The flirting, fair enough. I mean, come on, I'm only human. Look at you.
But we have had some more love over on Spotify. Hannah Bad 78, Team Eddie with the Vimto. Oh yeah, remember the Vimto?
Oh yeah, the Vimto. God, I'm so glad we've moved on to that. But we've replaced the Vimto, Han Baz, with lime juice. There were some family members that were drinking non-alcoholic beer with a squirt of lime juice in. What is going on there? So, okay, we went with it. We bought some lime juice so people could have the drink that they wanted over Christmas. And now it's become a thing. We try and have like all our family meals at the table in the evening, and the kids have their various jobs that they have to do. We have the jug, which has water in it. It looks like water. I pour a big glass. Oh, really thirsty. It's lime.
That reminds me of being a young kid. Robinson's Lime and Lemon.
It's so strong.
Clangers at 68. Excellent company for another dog jog.
Dad jog. And read this song because it starts with Eddie. The Hendersons. They sound like fun. The Hendersons too. They sound like your neighbours that always know which bin goes out. Oh, I'm not sure if it's the blue or the grey bin. Just ask the Hendersons down at number 2. Eddie, that is inspirational stuff. In particular, your closing words are your kids being your inspiration. Oh, brought tears to my eyes in the effing supermarket. Laughing emoji. Well done, Aubrey. Oh, God, you gotta be careful where you listen to this podcast. The supermarket, I'm not
When
sure.
you reach a certain age, there's lots of things that can trigger you. Big time.
Please keep your reviews coming in. We love reading them. Pop over to iTunes or Spotify and leave us a review. Thanks, Protein Rebel, for bringing us home. It's only week 2 of 2025, but we're going to keep our good habits. Gary is not going to cough and splutter all the way through this podcast. I can't tell you how many times the little red sign goes on when I'm talking and he's going, blah, blah, blah. Oh, now he's put on his little smile going. I was talking to the kids about asthma when we were running yesterday, asking them if any of their friends had any chewies, inhalers.
You wait until they're
That's all I'm
25, they'll be smashing the Ventolin.
What do you have? Here's your list. You've actually written a list of your concoctions. This is your
This is
old
my
man's list
routine.
of. Is this by your bed?
No, this is in the morning. I have the asthma pump, and it's, what's it called? It's a spacer. So you deliver the asthma pump into this kind of plastic vessel, and then you breathe it that way. So it's not a good look. And then I have regular asthma pump, which I don't take unless I need it. Got my nasal spray, the multivitamins, the super, the vitamin D. I think Siobhan, she mentioned that, and I was showing I've been pretty faithful to that. Collagen. I'm sipping my magnesium now, and as soon as I finished a run, boom, I'll drink the Accelerate vegan high protein powder too. It's just, like I say, I'll keep saying, I want 2025 to be not so
Year
full of
of Gary.
sickness.
Yeah.
It's early days. We're the 7th of January. We'll see where I'm in March and stuff like that. But I feel like I've just turned the dial a little bit of motivation. I think that's because there's a lot of, not jeopardy, but I don't plan to go back to the League 100 again. And I really don't plan to go to all county tops again, especially if I do Northern Traverse. I will not be in, well, I just will not be able to do it. So it's like all in 2025. Unlike probably 2023 and 2024, I seem to be a little bit more serious. Anyway, Protein Rebel will be at the National Running Show, so swing by if you're off to Birmingham, and if you would like to try Protein Rebel, then use the code TEA10. You've got to spell it out for 15% off your first order. And it's not a competition, but a poll this time. Yeah, it's proven really popular, actually. Lots of people have taken part already, but SHOKZ would like to know, would you consider purchasing a product that is featured on our podcast, or any podcast, I suppose? And there is a post over in the Facebook group explaining all the deets. It's pinned to featured, so it should be easy to find. It's very simple, just a yes or a no option. And if you have, was it a positive experience? Yes or no? We will pick 3 participants at random on the 13th of January. First out the hat will receive a SHOKZ Open Run Pro 2 headset. That is their brand new flagship model, which I recently gave a glowing review to over on YouTube. Second and third will receive some SHOKZ goodies. What you got coming up?
What you got coming up? You may notice the silence. The silence. I said to the kids last night, I said, this time tomorrow, there's going to be no dirt walked into my house. There's going to be nobody, plates, bowls by the dishwasher. That 11 o'clock, I'm hungry. Is it lunchtime? I've already worn 3 different outfits. What are we doing today? And I said, I'm going to love every minute of it. And then come about 3 o'clock, I'm going to go, oh,
Lonely, be quiet.
I miss them.
When did your decks come down?
Oh, I reckon about the 2nd or 3rd. I'm done. Christmas is done. I want that tree out. I want everything out. Bryn is a Christmas demon. I had a lot of coaching work to do, set everybody up for January. So I literally spent 3 days at my desk, and Bryn de-Christmified the house. Like every time I went out, another room was like stripped bare. I know, but he's so good at it. And then back in the Christmas bag. When I went to the supermarket, I saw like all the Christmas cards and wrapping paper like half price. You know, you can buy, they're literally.
Yeah, but I buy
giving it away.
that,
So
put it away
can't do
somewhere
that.
and forget about it.
Yeah, and then you find Christmas wrapping paper in places where it shouldn't be. Yeah, too much. So I'm going to reestablish a little bit of longer running, see how the legs feel like that. Go and see the osteo. I'm quite looking forward to having a bit of a click.
Yeah,
See how
fingers crossed.
everything's doing. Back into a routine now. The kids go back to school, so I have to actually get up in the morning. I was really nervous about that because I've really enjoyed a sort of 8 o'clock start
nice,
to the
isn't it?
day the last
Yeah.
couple of weeks, and now it's like 6 o'clock start to the day, and it's so dark and it's so cold, but it wasn't too bad. And I know I'll sleep better because getting up at 8 or 7:30, I find it hard to go to bed, whereas if I get up at 6, 9 o'clock, I'm ready.
Yeah.
I'm ready. So back into bed routine. Try and just increase a little bit of the running volume, couple of workouts, get the couple of strengths back in, and just keep turning the cogs, turning up, and I keep watching on my Garmin for the hours, like sunsets, 15:43, 15:44, like just a little bit more. The evening dog walk, when that is like not so much at dusk, I notice it because I always go out like just that moment, the sun. Why do we do it? I go out just as like the coldest part of the day. I'm like, if I'd gone out an hour earlier when the sun was out. But every day it's that little bit later. I'm like, oh, we're just not getting back quite in the night. So I'm just going to keep going, keep writing my plan. I see Eddie's written a couple of spicy sessions. One I'm going to do this afternoon and one I'm going to do probably at the weekend. She has written she's mean. And her coaching feedback is questionable, Gary.
Do you fill it in on Training Peaks?
I write it as if on my own Training Peaks, and I have me as a coach, as my own coach, and I'm writing it as if I'm feeding back to somebody else. Well, she's not replied yet to any of my sessions or given me any kudos or anything. And I keep waiting. When's Eddie going to a little bit of well done? Nothing. She's a hard time. She just puts in more and more sessions. I think she's just disappointed generally. As we all know. We're much the same, aren't we? Apart from you not back lifting again. Now's the time. Especially if you're thinking June the 28th, you're going to have to be in Ryan Gosling shape, aren't you?
I want the 6-pack, the little V down to the groin. I want that look.
You can want it all you like.
I might even wax.
So didn't know where that W word was going to go. Would you wax?
God, no. Goodness me.
No, that would be great podcast content.
I was listening to the rest of these
Eddie waxes Gary.
That could be the entertainment instead of the competition.
People don't like it. If people are like, it's too elitist, let's get with your waxing.
And the rest is politics. They said about New Year's resolutions. I think they're also sponsored by some facial care product. And they asked, Alistair Campbell what his routine was. And it's pretty much the same as mine. Just washed his face. That was it. Moisturiser has never ever touched.
Has it
Gary's
not?
Face.
I have to put moisturiser on because otherwise I can't move my face because I've got such dry skin. So but that's what prompts me to put on moisturiser. But I literally buy the cheapest moisturiser that's got SPF that's got sun cream in.
Well, I'm proof. It's all rubbish. Look at my face. It's incredible. You do not need anything. No products. Amazing.
Anyway, you got some workouts?
Well, same volume. I'm going to do the long run. But like you said, it's time to start lifting too. I've already done my brutal abs. Don't want to disappoint anybody.
Yeah, no.
I'm going to do the workout and I think it's going to be an uphill tempo.
Of course it is.
On the treadmill. 8%. I think that's on the plan.
8%. Yeah, you can. I've been doing some 10 and 12% and they're pleasurable, but I do feel like it's really hard to get your cadence up. 8% you can... 5%, 8%, you can get that cadence up a little bit.
Yeah, I just need to forget. I just need to remember to download something to watch. Otherwise,
yes,
very, very hard to go.
I think you should download John Kinniston's Northern Traverse video. That's really good, and watch that for a bit of reminiscing. And it's his vlog of running the Northern Traverse.
No, I never do that.
I know, but I do a lot. And the weather when he did it is incredible. They are so hot.
April could be incredible. Obviously, you guys didn't have that for a lot of it, at least. But I never. Do you have to pay the bucks to download a YouTube video? I don't know.
Download. I don't know because I've got internet on my phone, so I just watch it on my phone.
Yeah. I'm a bit tight with my data. We'll see.
Are you? What, you pay for data? Don't you do unlimited data on your phone?
No, I pay like about £8 a month.
12-year-old boy. Yeah, but so do I. No, maybe I pay like 20 quid a month. And oh my God, please.
What chit-chat.
Thanks for tuning in. We love you. Keep on listening. Keep on sharing the pod. Share the love. Pop over to YouTube, subscribe, or even consider joining Patreon. Thanks to X Miles, Precision Hydration, Phoenix Light UK, and Protein Rebel for sponsoring this week's show. Remember the new customer discount codes: T10 for SHOKZ, T15 for Protein Rebel, and T24 for Precision Hydration. Thanks to our partners and patrons too. We couldn't do this without you and your ongoing support.
Let the trail rise to meet you and the wind always be on your back. Be kind to future self. Breathe and believe. Progress, not perfection. Good luck to everybody racing this weekend, especially if you're one of those hardy souls on the Pennine Way. My name is Gary Thwaites.
And I'm Eddie Sutton. And if you are listening to this as you are mid-spine, any part of the Pennine Way, I want you to stop, look up, breathe, and believe.
And that was episode 103 of the award-winning Tea and Trails podcast.
that's not the right song, is it? God on high, my brother, he is only
Have I?
It was a song from Les Mis when he's singing about bringing all the dead people home.
Is that Hugh Jackman?
It's
Apparently
not
died in
gonna-
our Facebook group. You say that?
Oh, that was my homage to Hugh Jackman. I think
Honestly.
he split up with his wife.
Oh, sad
Oh,
times.
sad times.
Is that fact or like OK Magazine?
Oh, well, who
fact?
knows? It's been posted on our Facebook group. He's a big podcast fan. Oh my gosh, this sun. Move again. Exhausted.